He's Jewish and lost family in the Holocaust. His wife met yesterday in Ukraine with First Lady Jill Biden. Her main takeaway after meeting with Ukrainian families forced from their homes.
How much I saw the need to support the people of Ukraine, and that they were, the horrors and the brutality that the people I had met had experienced.
And she's about to leave Slovakia for the trip back to Washington. Some Russian TV channels and on-screen listing systems have been hacked with the message, "On your hands is the blood of thousands of Ukrainians and their hundreds of murdered children. TV and the authorities are lying. No to war." President Biden's announcing today a deal for 20 internet companies to give discounts to 48 million low-income households. With federal subsidies approved in last year's infrastructure bill, their internet service will end up being free. The state attorney general of Michigan says she will defy her state's trigger law if the U.S. Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade.
Dana Nessel, a Democrat, said on NBC's Meet the Press that Michigan's GOP-controlled legislature plans to re-invoke a 1930s law that punishes anyone that initiates an abortion procedure.
Not just throwing providers and anybody who works with a provider under aiding and abetting theories in prison, but also women themselves who procure an abortion through abortion medication.
Nessel adds the law doesn't account for rape, incest, or medical emergencies, and enforcing it would put more than 2 million women of childbearing age in Michigan at risk. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Some people in South Carolina were shaken awake by a pretty rare earthquake overnight, magnitude 3.3, centered near the town of Elgin. Happened just after 1:30 a.m., lasting just a few seconds. No reports of injuries or damage. America's listening to Fox News.
Life is about being active. Whether it's about going on your daily tasks or exercising, you know you're well when you're regularly active. But what happens when being active actually hurts by the end of the day? This is the position I found myself in a number of years ago. Everything I wanted to do in my daily life, all of the activity it called for, was held captive to almost constant nagging pain. When I heard about Relief Factor, I was skeptical, but my wife said, give it a chance. Not long after I took it, I could feel the pain begin to melt away, and I've been taking it ever since. And I can tell you that Relief Factor has helped me get my life back. I love that it's not a drug, but it was developed by doctors, and about 70% of the people who try it go on to order more. Your first step to becoming pain-free just might be ordering a 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF, or ReliefFactor.com. Find out all about this offer and feel the difference.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners, 6:03. Robinson saves you time. Currently 67 degrees. Mostly sunny skies are expected for today. Look for a high of 89. Good morning, I'm Andy Humphrey. Columbia police are looking for a murder suspect after a weekend homicide. Officers say a warrant has been issued for Isaac Bryant for second-degree murder and armed criminal action after the incident early yesterday. Investigators say 37-year-old Demetrius Ware was shot on Grand Avenue near Sexton and Providence Roads, where was pronounced dead at a hospital. Anyone with info on Bryant's whereabouts should call Crime Stoppers. A Jefferson City man dies in a weekend motorcycle crash.
Police say 32-year-old Herschel White apparently locked up the rear brake and crashed the bike near Capital City High School Saturday. Investigators say White was thrown off the motorcycle and suffered severe head trauma. He was wearing a helmet. John Marsh, 93.9, The Eagle.
A Columbia man had to be flown to the hospital after a crash in Benton County. Troopers say a truck driven by 33-year-old Ricky Young ran off the right side of the road, overturned, and hit a fence on Highway BB near Allen Road on Saturday afternoon. Young has serious injuries. The patrol's crash report says he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. More education dollars are coming in Missouri's largest approved budget in state history. Lawmakers in the House and Senate passed the $48 billion budget at the end of last week. The budget includes enough money to fulfill the state's share of busing costs for K-12 schools. It also will increase teacher salaries to a minimum of $38,000 a year. Lawmakers also included more money to expand access to Medicaid in the state. The publisher of ComoBuzz.com says there is some stress between Boone County commissioners and Boone Hospital involving American Rescue Plan Act funds. Mike Murphy says the hospital is seeking $7 million in ARPA funds, while the county is moving slowly. He says the hospital could be an issue in the November race for Boone County's presiding commissioner.
I think it becomes a campaign issue during that race. where exactly they stand on the county's relationship with the hospital and what they'd like to see done there.
Former Columbia State Rep Kip Kendrick will face Quality Drywall Construction owner Connie Leopard in November. The winner will replace incumbent Dan Atwell, who served in that role since 2011. Today is a Missouri holiday to observe Truman Day. Most state and county offices will be closed to observe former President Harry Truman's birthday. The nation's 33rd president was born 138 years ago in the southwest Missouri town of Lamar. President Truman implemented the Marshall Plan to help rebuild Western Europe's economy after World War II. 93.9 The Eagle News with AirServe Heating and Air Conditioning, ensuring the air in which you live and breathe is comfortable and clean. For all of your cooling needs, log on to AIRESERV.com. It's 6:06. It was a series split for the Cardinals on the road against the Giants as San Francisco took yesterday's finale 4-3. Juan Yepez hit his first career home run for the Cards. They begin a 3-game series tomorrow at Busch Stadium against the Orioles. The Royals took the first game of a doubleheader against those Orioles 6-4 yesterday, then lost the second game 4-2. The two teams were rained out at Kauffman Stadium both Friday and Saturday. The finale of that 3-game series starts today at 11:05. Carlos Hernandez gets the start on the mound for Kansas City. The Blues earned a much-needed playoff win against the Wild yesterday in St. Louis 5-2. Jordan Kyrou and David Perron both scored twice. The Blues also switched to Jordan Binnington at goaltender, and he made 28 saves in the win. The first-round playoff series is now tied at 2 games apiece. Game 5 is tomorrow night in Minnesota. Mizzou baseball struggled over the weekend, losing all 3 games on the road against Ole Miss. The Tigers will try to bounce back with a 3-game set at home against Florida starting Friday. Mizzou softball finished the regular season yesterday, falling to Alabama 3-1 on the road. Next up is the SEC tournament in Gainesville, where the 7th-seeded Tigers will face the 10th-seeded Auburn Tigers on Wednesday. Sports with Lacrosse Lumber. Apply now for full and part-time delivery drivers with great benefits at Lacrosse Lumber on Grindstone in Columbia. It's 6:07. Weather with Club Car Wash. Get an unlimited membership for just $20 a month. See more details at clubcarwash.com to find a location near you. Right now, 67. With MidmoHires.com, local companies looking for local people. Visit MidmoHires.com to find a job or post your job opening today. You can let us know if you see any traffic issues on your morning commute today by giving us a call or a text at 874-9390. At the moment, we don't see anything major, but we'll let you know if we do in Columbia, Jefferson City, and the surrounding areas there. Again, 874-9390 with a call or a text to report traffic to us. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Andy Humphrey, 93.9 The Eagle.
The pro-choice activist group Shut Down D.C. is planning to protest at the home of Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito tonight after targeting the homes of Justice Brett Kavanaugh and Chief Justice John Roberts over the weekend.
The whole world is watching! The whole world is watching!
You have a right to freedom of speech. You have a right to be just about anywhere that you want as an American. But we also have a right to call out idiocy and poor taste and just dangerous behavior. A couple of Supreme Court justices over the weekend, folks doxing them. Google, after about an hour, apparently took down their addresses, were posted online, which, by the way, anybody, you could find anybody, just about any important local elected servant here, whether it be the mayor, city council person, whether it be David Tyson Smith, a local state representative who's elected, you could find the address basically for any of those people. It's real simple. You can go to tax records. It's a real easy thing to do. So when people go and post that stuff online, unless it's something private or unless it's something they're not getting from a publicly available info, I don't have a problem with that because it's out there anyway. I really don't. I honestly don't. If you get down to the core of it, it's out there anyway. But now the intent of what these people are doing, or when it's private information, or so-and-so was in a vacation home, but it's under this name, I have a real problem with that personally. And this is, by the way, these aren't opinion political talking points. That's dangerous, disgusting, and frightening.
Well, and it was one of the 3 priorities that was identified here in the Missouri State of the Judiciary was security for judges. And so in January, the Chief Justice gave an address to the legislature, and that was one thing he said for our own state and local judges. Hey, we need more security. We need to protect their private information. Some judges have been threatened, and that should be an issue here. I haven't heard much of that since that time, but I wonder if these protests will renew the calls here, in our own state for judge security.
And here's why the implications of this is, and I don't think it would ever happen. I would like to think that. I would like to believe that. But I could see a situation where, man, I'm going to get killed. People are going to come out and kill my little kids because they're not happy with the decision that I rendered. Not just Supreme Court, but like you said, local judges, Missouri judges would like to think that somebody who is a justice would never, ever compromise or bend when it comes to ruling on the merits of the law. They don't rule on the merits of public opinion, as Elizabeth Warren was insinuating last week. Don't the judges get it? Nobody wants this. Nobody. Listen, that's not what a Supreme Court justice of the United States does. Again, there's a fundamental misunderstanding about what justices do. A fundamental misunderstanding. Seriously, breaks my heart. I don't care what the issue is, by the way. It breaks my heart to think you have politicians, elected servants, that encourage this kind of behavior. Maxine Waters, people ask, I remember past several months, we've highlighted audio from Maxine Waters. Take your pick. She's done it a lot over the years. This is what she encourages her constituency to do.
And if you see anybody from that cabinet in a restaurant, in a department store, at a gasoline station, you get out and you create a crowd. And you push back on them. And you tell them they're not welcome.
None of us.
And you tell them they're not welcome.
But there's some angry people in America, and young black males in my district are feeling at this moment, if they could not get a conviction with the Rodney King video available to the jurors, that there can be no justice in America.
We've got to get more confrontational. We've got to make sure that they know that we mean business.
We've got to get more confrontational. Back in the early 90s when she was saying, hey, if this Rodney King verdict doesn't go our way, here's what we got to do. And I remember several months ago when we were highlighting some of this audio, and I remember somebody asking, why are you playing that? That's old. Some of that stuff from Maxine Waters, less than 2 years old. Why are you playing that? Well, here's why. Because I remember at the time people say, oh, it's just another politician yakking their jaws. Why does it matter? This is why it matters. We've seen protests where people have been killed because people aren't getting what they want. We see protests where people are doxing SCOTUS and they're going to their houses. That's why what she said, what Maxine Waters said several years ago, that's why that stuff is important. We see the fruits, if you will, of their labor today. And people a lot of folks, not as smart folks, but there's a lot of folks have a fundamental misunderstanding about this leak. And it's not the leak. The leak is the most discerning thing. The Roe v. Wade thing. Two things. There is nothing new on the abortion argument. There's nothing. I've been hearing the same moral, philosophical arguments I've been hearing since I was a kid. There's nothing new to add to that, at least that I've heard. Maybe you've heard something new and different as it relates to that. This is not about that. This is about the opinion being leaked. This is about actions of folks going to the homes of justices of the Supreme Court, of members that sit on the Supreme Court of the United States. Again, legally, you have a right to be just about anywhere you want. You do. You have a freedom of speech. And I have freedom of speech to say, that's disgusting. I can't believe that you would do something like that. And there's a lot of misunderstandings about a bunch of things, whether it's locally, parental bill of rights in the legislature in Jefferson City, something that Chuck Basie has championed for a long time. Well, a parental bill of rights, you're targeting gays, No, you do not understand. And people that I would like to think, listen, and my opinion is evolving over this. I'm backtracking on some of my previous beliefs. I am changing my mind. I am contradicting things that I've said in the past. I would typically stereotype, say, if you're an elected servant, you're probably a lot smarter than I am. I don't believe that way anymore. I really don't. No offense to present company, Ms. Bell, who serves on the Board of Aldermen. And actually, I'm not talking about you. I swear. Chris Murphy, Senator, Connecticut, on yesterday with Brett Baer. This is kind of key, too, because this is something we've been working on, not specifically like the parental bill of rights in Florida, but we've been working on a bill of rights in Jefferson City. Final week of the legislative session. We got the budget done last week.
Barely.
Yeah, just barely. And I'll have to go back to the words of Brian Hauswirth last week, because I remember, it's the last day. And I fall into that trap, too. Last day, budget's not passed. And Brian Hauswirth, our news director for the Zimmer Radio Group, said, you know what happened last year? And I'm trying to think back. Oh, it was about the last day when they got it passed? Said, yeah. You remember how it went down the year before that? So it was about the last day, and we got all excited. And he said, yeah. It happens every year, but it's still...
There are people, too. I mean, we all procrastinate, right? And it's kind of like it mirrors what's going to happen this week, right? There's so much on the table, and there's a deadline Friday, and, they're going to try to cram in now. Now everyone's going to kind of wake up and say, uh-oh, we got to get some stuff done.
And procrastination is not a bad thing. As a matter of fact, I think I can learn anything from anybody at any time. I learned something very valuable I love to procrastinate. I'm really good at it. That's one of the things I am not trying to really improve upon, because I'm really good at it already. I always say, why do now what you can do later? But I always think you've had a very interesting take on procrastination and the benefit of procrastinating.
Well, if you wait to do something, you're older and wiser, and you have more life experience to tackle whatever task you're trying to do.
Experience, Cousin Andy, you agree with that?
I think so. Yeah, I'll do that.
By the way, Andy, in for Brian Hauswirth.
This is the principle that I couldn't put my finger on when we've talked about this before. It's called Parkinson's Law, is the old adage that work expands to fill time allotted for its completion. And so if someone gives you something to do and they're like, it has to be done by today at 5, you're going to get it done by today at 5. But if it's not due until Wednesday at 5, guess what? You're going to work on it some today, maybe tomorrow, and it'll get done Wednesday at 5.
Thank you, Hannah. My thoughts exactly. Stephanie Bell, Hannah, the producer, Cousin Andy, in for Brian Hauswirth, who's back tomorrow. So there's a lot of things. People they don't understand. For example, the whole Roe v. Wade thing, it's about states' rights, states' decisions. People inherently misunderstand that, and that's fine. There's nothing we could do to change their minds, except maybe a younger generation of folks, and say, hey, just so you know, you might be seeing this on a lot of the news and things like that, but here is the truth, and here are some facts. Senator Chris Murphy, senator from Connecticut. I have been wrong, and I got to apologize for assuming that most elected servants are smarter than I am. And here is my proof. Chris Murphy, on with Brett Baer on Fox yesterday. He doesn't understand the parental bill of rights in Florida.
To sort of target gay kids in schools, I just think is mean-spirited and something that I had not seen from the Republican Party when I first started out in politics 20 years ago.
Well, hold on, I'm going to interrupt you.
Yeah.
To target gay kids in schools, I mean, the bill is about not talking about sexual identity from K through 3rd grade. That's not targeting gay kids.
Yes, it is. It absolutely is.
This guy, the people of Connecticut have elected this guy to serve them in the Senate. He lacks a basic comprehension of what a parental bill of rights is. I don't know what kind of life experiences this guy has. I don't know how old he is, but I would think that is a very simple thing. Lacks a fundamental misunderstanding, or the other option, he's just flat out lying. And politicians don't lie. They always, present company again excluded.
I'm not a politician. That's fine.
Have you ever run for elected office? Then you're a politician. Welcome into the show. One of the things we're going to be doing this morning, Phil Kerpen, he is the president of American Commitment. We are going to look at how businesses are recovering after events of government entities over the past 2 years. This is something we saw in Columbia. We saw what local elected servants did to local businesses here in Columbia. Well, let's take a look at how they are recovering. He's going to be joining us 6:35 this morning, and I'm really stoked about this. Mike Murphy does Como Buzz. Check it out, Como Buzz, 1Z, comobuzz.com. He picked up on something that we started here on Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle a couple of weeks ago, and that was calling out the Kansas City Star for a couple of lies. I mean, real lies. Matter of fact, I emailed the reporter, and the response I got from the reporter, and this had to do with a story about crime in Columbia, and there are two lines in the story saying former Mayor Brian Treese and Police Chief Jeff Jones refused to talk for this article. Jeff Jones said that is an absolute lie. I emailed the reporter who did the story at the Kansas City Star, and I was real nice about it. I had to stop and keep changing my email to make sure I was being, don't send an email in anger, right? It's a great rule to live by. And I asked her very nicely. I said, hey, we have the chief on record saying this. Here's the audio. Listen to it for yourself. But your article says former Mayor Treese and Chief Jeff Jones didn't want to talk. Chief Jeff Jones is saying that is not true. This is in the Kansas City Star, a story picked up by several newspapers across the state and picked up by the Columbia Daily Tribune. So I asked the reporter about it. The response I got from the reporter was a link to an updated story because some little blue-collar dude in Columbia, Missouri called them on it effectively by asking to explain the discrepancy in the stories. And the response back from the Kansas City Star was, we have changed the story. We have updated the story to better reflect our history of communication. Mike Murphy, he's going to be joining us 8:10 to talk about some of these local news outlets. And I got to give some points to a local news outlet for a tweet they put out over the weekend. I hope to get into that if Hannah or Stephanie will.
The talk show for awesome folks like you. Wake Up Columbia, 93.9 The Eagle.
Russia commemorating its World War II victory over Nazi Germany with an elaborate military parade. That's getting us into today's daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell.
And Putin is calling out the U.S. by name. He fiery speech today, basically accusing the West of backing threats of nuclear war. I mean, he's pretty fired up, and he basically said the U.S., the United States of America, especially after the collapse of the Soviet Union, has humiliated not only the whole world, but also their satellite states. So he is not mincing words. Beyond that, we had Jill Biden was in Ukraine this last weekend with Justin Trudeau, just visiting with Ukrainians, the latest folks from the West, talking to them. We also know the congressional members are all back at Capitol Hill this week, and they have a couple things that are on their agenda. Nothing.
What's number one on that list?
Roe v. Wade. Failed vote on basically codifying Roe v. Wade. They know it's going to fail, but they still feel like they need to do it. They had a similar vote in February. It failed. They don't have 60 votes in the Senate, but they're going to go ahead and vote. That vote is expected midweek. They're also looking at a resolution that would grant congressional aides the ability to unionize, which I haven't heard much about. So we'll see on that. I know lots of companies have been unionizing, so that's been a hot topic. And then also, they're going to be talking about, of course, the January 6th committee, but it's kind of entering a new phase. Everything's been, a lot of it's been behind closed doors. And so they've got these public hearings and some other more public things happening with that committee coming up.
And that's your daily DC Rundown with Stephanie Bell on 93.9 The Eagle. There's a commonality. Restaurant business in cities across America that have recovered the quickest over the past 6 to 10 months following the, Phil Kerpen is going to be joining us to talk about that.
Stop by Club Car Wash to get an unlimited membership for just $20 a month. See more details at clubcarwash.com.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. Russian President Putin commemorates his country's World War II victory by insisting he had to invade Ukraine, telling the crowd in Moscow's Red Square.
The danger was increasing every day. Russia preventatively rebuffed the aggressor.
Also here in Ukraine, First Lady Jill Biden made a surprise visit over the weekend, meeting with Ukraine's First Lady, who had not been seen in public since the invasion began in February. That meeting happened at a school converted to assist refugees in southwestern Ukraine.
Fox's Matt Finn in Lviv. And a fourth person is in critical condition after fatalities in the Bahamas.
This morning, authorities at the Sandals Resort in the Bahamas reportedly centering their investigation on an air conditioner. It may have sent toxic coolant into the air, causing the deaths of at least 3 Americans.
Fox's Todd Pyro. America's listening to Fox News.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners, 6:31. Robinson saves you time, currently 67 degrees. Good morning, I'm Andy Humphrey. Columbia police are looking for a murder suspect after a weekend homicide. Officers say a warrant has been issued for Isaac Bryant for second-degree murder and armed criminal action after the incident early yesterday. Investigators say 37-year-old Demetrius Ware was shot on Grand Avenue near Sexton and Providence Roads. Ware was pronounced dead at a hospital. Anyone with info on Bryant's whereabouts should call Crime Stoppers. A Jefferson City motorcyclist is dead after losing control Saturday. Police say 32-year-old Herschel White apparently locked up his rear brake and crashed the bike near Capital City High School. Investigators say White was thrown off the motorcycle and suffered head trauma. He was wearing a helmet. A Columbia man suffers serious injuries after a crash in Benton County. The Highway Patrol says Ricky Young's truck ran off the right side of the road on Highway BB near Allen Road just after noon Saturday. The truck rolled over and hit a fence. Young was flown to the hospital with serious injuries. Investigators say he was not wearing a seatbelt. Missouri lawmakers have passed a roughly $48 billion state budget bolstered by federal aid. The spending plan approved Friday includes enough money to fully pay for the state's share of public K-12 busing costs, as well as a program to increase teacher pay to at least $38,000 a year. The budget also pays for expanded access to Medicaid and a 5.5% funding increase for four-year colleges. The $48 billion budget is the largest in Missouri history. The publisher for ComoBuzz.com says the upcoming special election for Columbia's 3rd Ward council seat will be a key story. Mike Murphy says Northeast Columbia's 3rd Ward has contrasts.
You know, that area has some very, very nice residential developments, and it also has our worst part of town a couple blocks away.
Yeah.
Is where most of our violent crime takes place.
Incumbent Carl Scala and challenger Roy Lovelady tied in April with 1,102 votes. The special election is on August 2nd. You can hear the CEO Roundtable interview with Murphy at 939theeagle.com. Most state and county offices are closed today to observe Truman Day for the nation's 33rd president. Former President Harry Truman was born in 1884 in southwest Missouri's Lamar and later moved to Independence. President Truman issued the executive order that integrated the U.S. military and started the Truman Doctrine. He was inducted into the Hall of Famous Missourians at the State House in Jefferson City in 1991. His bronze bust is still on display there. 93.9 The Eagle News with Mid-America Mortgage. Check out midamericamortgage.us and apply for a loan now on your dream home. It's 6:34. The Cardinals were edged out by the Giants yesterday, 4-3 on the road, splitting a 4-game series. Juan Yepez hit his first career home run for St. Louis in the loss. The Cards are off today and will start a 3-game set with the Orioles at home tomorrow. After 2 straight rainouts Friday and Saturday, the Royals split a doubleheader with the Orioles yesterday, winning the first game 6-4, then losing 4-2 in the second game. Kansas City will finish out their series with Baltimore today at 11:05. Carlos Hernandez will start for the Royals. The Blues evened up their first-round playoff series with the Wild after a 5-2 victory in Game 4 yesterday in St. Louis. Jordan Kyrou and David Perron both had 2 goals apiece, and Jordan Binnington made 28 saves in net. The series is tied at 2-2. Game 5 is tomorrow night at 8:30 in Minnesota. Mizzou baseball was swept on the road at Ole Miss over the weekend, losing yesterday 10-2. They will host Florida for their final conference home series starting Friday. Mizzou softball dropped 2 out of 3 games at Alabama to finish the regular season. They will be the 7th seed in this week's SEC tournament in Gainesville, Florida. Their first game is against the 10 seed Auburn on Wednesday afternoon. Sports with the Better Business Bureau. Businesses can join and sign up for accreditation. Start online at bbb.org. It's 6:35. With MidboHires.com, local companies looking for local people. Visit MidboHires.com to find a job or post your job opening today. No wrecks to speak of, at least no reports of wrecks that we have seen in either Columbia or Jefferson City and surrounding major roads. If you see traffic, though, let us know at 874-9390 with a call or a text. Again, 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Andy Humphrey, 93.9 The Eagle.
The radio station, 93.9 The Eagle. The show, Wake Up Columbia, with Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, and Hannah the producer, giving you news, analysis, and opinion.
The ban on outdoor dining around the holidays, that really hurt the restaurant industry here, and a lot of people just didn't necessarily understand it.
Hurt the restaurant industry and other industries here, there, everywhere. We saw it in Columbia, too, and this was not, by the way, because of COVID. We were talking about misunderstandings by folks in the political realm this morning. They misunderstand this Roe v. Wade thing. It's not doing away with abortion, is what they're doing, is giving that back to the states. The Parental Bill of Rights in Florida does not target gay kids. It says, hey, in kindergarten, you know, those early grades, we're not going to talk about gender identity and who you're attracted to. Fundamental misunderstanding about what had happened over the past 2 years as it relates to businesses. If I hear one more local elected official in the city of Columbia saying, yeah, and then when COVID shut down these businesses, COVID didn't shut down the businesses. You did. COVID did not do that. You did. Somebody, I think, who has a good handle on this, Phil Kerpen, president of American Commitment, AmericanCommitment.org. You ought to check out the website. I think I enjoy poking around on there, so I thought that you might enjoy it too. Phil has done something interesting. One way of looking at this, and he's looked at some cities across America and looked at how they are rebounding as it relates to restaurants. Phil, welcome into the show. Let's start. Basically, what did you find?
Well, there's some pretty good data from OpenTable, which is a reservation app, and they've got data where they compare the days in the current year to the same days, a couple of days off from the numeric, but the same day of the week, sort of equivalent from 2019, and they've got 46 cities that they track, and it gives you a pretty good sense of what's happening nationally when you look at these numbers. And there's a massive split right now. We've got red state restaurants are in a massive boom, and so you look at cities like Austin, Las Vegas, Naples, Florida, Scottsdale, Phoenix, Miami, Fort Lauderdale. The restaurants are up 35% or more from where they were in the same time of year in 2019. So it's hard to get in. It's hard to get a reservation. They're all packed. They're kind of booming. And then you kind of look at the other end of the spectrum, and, New York, Brooklyn, San Francisco are all still down 40% from 2019, which is pretty brutal. And Minneapolis is down 60%, which, I mean, COVID rules might be part of that, but it's probably also, the riots that blew out the whole city and nobody wants to go downtown. And so there are other democratic pathologies that are feeding into that. But we've got this massive divide, and we don't have Columbia. We don't have Columbia, but Kansas City and St. Louis are down, I think, 19% versus 2019. So they're sort of in the middle of the pack.
It's interesting. I'm sure our guest, by the way, Phil Kerpen, president of American Commitment, AmericanCommitment.org. And I know you know this, Phil, but for those interested, you look at a red-blue map, county by county, in a presidential election, what have you, the entire state, every single county is red. But if you're looking at the map to your left, you see Jackson County, Kansas City, blue. You look all the way to the right of the map, the city of St. Louis, blue. And then right in the middle of Missouri, Phil, there's a county called Boone County, Missouri, home to Columbia, Missouri. It's blue. So there's a lot that you can draw from these numbers based on St. Louis and Kansas City. Anything else when you look at these numbers, because these are facts, by the way, and I can put my opinion in as to why this was happening, and I think it's real simple. But your opinion, why are these restaurants, why are we seeing the recoveries better in the red states than in blue states as far as restaurants in some of these cities?
Well, I think there are basically three reasons. One of them is COVID rules and regulations and shutdowns and capacity restraints and vaccine mandates and all of that just got people in these places out of the habit of going out. And even when they sort of lifted, people weren't changing their patterns and going out again. Whereas in the red states, those things either never happened or much more short-lived. Second, I think that the crime issue is a huge issue in a lot of these cities, Minneapolis being the worst, but also the cities kind of in general on the bottom of that chart. I think that a lot of people just don't want to go into the city anymore because they're afraid they're going to get carjacked or something like that, and these numbers are really up in a lot of these cities, and so I think that's a big part of it. And then the third thing is, even though pretty much everywhere people have returned to going out for social things and other reasons, time in the office is still under 50% of what it was in 2019 nationally. And even in the reddest places, it's only about 60% or so. The bluest places, it's 35% or so. And so the lunch business has disappeared in a lot of these places because there just aren't that many people in the office in these cities.
Man, that's crazy, and it saddens me, especially when I look at our businesses here in mid-Missouri, whether it's Fulton or Jefferson City or California, and I see what's happened to some of these businesses. I keep my fingers crossed that they'll recover. Do you think this is just my opinion, but I always like knowing what you think also. I think a lot of it, too, because I still see, and listen, you want to wear a mask, that's fine. When I see people wearing masks outdoors or in their car alone, I might get a little snarky, but they have that choice. They can do that. I think, in my opinion, a lot of it is these people, whether it's in the cities, the people that live in these cities that are stereotypically liberal, they buy into what the national news outlets tell them. They are afraid. Do you think a lot of this, it has to do with the news coverage of this too? Maybe they're so frightened that virus, it's out there and it's trying to get me and it's knocking on my car window. That's why my windows are rolled up. And I'm going to wear a mask for extra protection. Do you think it's a fear factor?
I think that certainly has been a factor. It persists, I think, to your point, among a certain subgroup of the population. The people who are sort of hardest left are probably going to wear masks the rest of their lives. I mean, they've sort of bought into it with sort of a religious fervor. To your point, if you're someone who has sort of this incredibly strong belief that you can't ever take a mask off in public without endangering yourself, you're probably never going to eat in a restaurant again, right? You might get takeout, but that's about it.
Yeah.
Right? That could be part of it, and that does correlate with politics. So maybe chalk up persistent, irrational fear and add that as a factor, too.
I thought one of the interesting things was, I like to go, my gym is Wilson's Fitness Center. Julie and a good bunch of people there, and through no fault of their own, it's what local elected officials did. So we were allowed, our local government said we can still keep our gym open, but you had to wear a mask inside. And here's the incredibly idiotic part of this all, Phil. And it was not just here in Columbia. So you had to walk into the gym with your mask on and, try to talk different. But then when you got on the equipment and you were working out, and breathing real hard and huffing and puffing, you could keep your mask off then. My God, this stuff makes no sense. And I know.
Well, there's some pretty good evidence that exercising with masks on is dangerous. And in fact, the World Health Organization has said from the beginning not to exercise with a mask on. So, at least they were sensible enough to create that exemption. You didn't have people getting, insufficient oxygen during exercise, and that can cause a lot of problems. But once you do that, to your point, you've now made the walking in part with the mask just purely a ritual. It can't possibly have any benefit, even if masks were really great at filtration, which they're not, the vast majority of masks people use. But even if they were, now you've just created a ritual. And, of course, most cities did this with the restaurants, too, this ritual of wearing a mask from the host stand to the table, and then once you sit down, taking it off, like the virus is high up. I tell you, when you walk, you're in the virus zone, but when you sit down, you're below it. You're good.
I know. Gosh.
And what's been amazing to me, I've seen a bunch of people continue to do that after the mandate ended, just as a matter of choice. Yep. The ritual of the host stand to the table. So, there's a lot of psychology in this as well, but none of it ever made very much sense, and it was businesses that got harmed the most, small businesses.
And that's just too bad. And then the other thing, and I know we got to get going here, but our local elected leaders, so they want to take ARPA money, and instead of giving it to businesses that were damaged, instead of giving it to people who lost their jobs because of what those said local elected officials do, well, we want to give it to black people. We want to do this. Well, let's give it to the folks most directly affected by this. I love this website, AmericanCommitment.org, and here's why. You get onto the website, AmericanCommitment.org, and you can click a bunch of things on there. My favorite thing is issues, and you can go and see various issues, and you can focus in on those. Defend free speech, fix the tax code, protect free market internet, things like that. Phil Kerpen is the president of AmericanCommitment.org. Finally, I got to tell you a quick, interesting story. My memory is poor. It's bad. Hannah has fact-checked me on that.
That is true.
Stephanie?
Yes.
Yeah, it's true. So I'm goofing around on the Twitter last week, and I see this. I saw your stat about these restaurants, and the restaurants recovering the best are in red states, and I'm like, oh, man, that's a great tweet. I like that. Phil Kerpen, he sounds familiar. I reached out to Randy Tobler. Randy Tobler hosts the Randy Tobler Show weekdays at 4. I reached out to Gary Nolan. I'm like, have you guys, this Phil Kerpen, and he sounds very familiar. That name sounds familiar. And I'm trying to think, maybe he's been somewhere. And so I reach out, and your name sounds familiar because you've been on this show already more than once. That's why your name sounds familiar. Phil, we appreciate what you do and always appreciative of your time.
All right. Have a good one, guys.
All right. Coming up here on 93.9 The Eagle and 93.9theeagle.com, where you can listen live. You can also watch by going on to our YouTube channel. Dems. Talking about Dems. We'll do that about 5 minutes.
Wake Up Columbia with Branden Rathert. Mid-Missouri is listening.
And this is revealing a big secret, so don't tell anybody. We Democrats have a lab, 2 labs actually, secret labs, one in Berkeley and one in Brooklyn, where we come up with ideas to completely piss off the working class, and it's working wonderfully.
Paul Magala, Democratic strategist, on with Bill Maher this past Friday night. He's all about the Democrat strategy, and that's a Democrat talking about this Democrat strategy right now. We're just coming up with things that upset folks right now. You know, the working class, for example. He tells this great story. He says, last week I went into this union shop and I'm talking to everybody. He's, very nice people and all this. And he mentioned this. He says, you know what? Not one of those union folks came up to me and said, hey, I think it's a really good idea that you take money out of my pocket and then give it to somebody else to pay off their student loan debt. Remember, they got a loan. They agreed they would pay it off. He says not one person in this union shop thought that was a really good idea. Yep. Welcome into the show. Wake Up Columbia. There's Stephanie Bell.
Good morning.
Hannah, the producer, is here.
Good morning.
Cousin Andy filling in for Brian Hauswirth, who's back tomorrow. Did you have a good Mama's Day weekend?
I did.
Any gifts?
Not really.
Yeah. Best thing about Mother's Day for you yesterday?
Just spending time with my kids. I think I've been traveling a lot, so just kind of a day at home, right? You laugh, but
now
it's nice. And the weather, oh my gosh, the weather yesterday it was beautiful.
Speaking of gifts and your kids, Stephanie, I heard that they got a gift from their dad.
They did. We're the proud new owners of Ice Cream the hamster. His name's Ice Cream.
He tastes delicious, by the way.
He got loose within the first 24 hours.
Right on. That's what hamsters do.
And we've captured him, and he's back in the cage. I don't know how long it's gonna last. I'm a little bit nervous. But the kids are just so excited that they can't stop reaching in and touching him and trying to hold him and stuff. And I had a hamster. Hannah, did you have a hamster growing up?
I did not.
Oh, our hamster got loose a lot.
We had a lot of hamsters. Matter of fact, my brother, he would breed hamsters. And in a portion of the basement, we had cages of hamsters. And he bred the hamsters to feed my exotic collection of boas and pythons.
Oh,
they're
gross.
lovely creatures.
We already had to add some oil to this hamster wheel because it was getting on the wheel in the middle of the night. It was squeaking all night long, keeping everybody up. So yeah, that hamster has a pretty elaborate cage, and I'm sure there'll be more additions. And it has one of those little balls where you put it in, and it roams around the house.
Now, was that a purchase from your children's father, or was that a Stephanie Bell purchase? How did that come about? Because you hate pets, don't you?
Oh, yeah. No, if I would have been home, I would not have allowed that to happen. However, the conversation, the kids and dad made a deal, something about keeping their room clean, and they would get a pet. So I think we're actually getting a second pet. I think Drew has been promised a lizard of some sort. And so that will be next.
And the cool thing about that, if you get a lizard big enough, it will eat the hamsters for you.
There you go. One takes care of the other.
More Dems talking about Dems. MSNBC's Chuck Todd.
Student debt, Andrew brought it up. As fiscal policy, this seems like the wrong time to do it. I understand the political pressure the president's under.
So this is just, we go back to kind of an inadvertent theme on the show this morning, hamsters, and then elected officials and people that are supposed to be smart folks that don't understand how things work. A lot of these progressive Dems, let's do away with student debt. Well, you just don't, listen, it's not an eraser. You're not at a blackboard or whatever we call them nowadays. You just don't go and erase it. Oh, look, the debt's gone. It doesn't work like that. That's not how it works. You just don't erase it and poof, it's gone. Your money, somebody's money is paying for that. And you've got Chuck Todd on probably the most progressive network on national news outlets saying, I'm all about this progressive stuff, but I'm also kind of intelligent. It just doesn't seem like good fiscal policy. right now. Coming up, Fox News, of course, they're on the latest, what's happening in Ukraine. And then coming up here at 7:10, we're going to look at what's happening in Jefferson City. Good morning, I'm Branden Rathert for the Better Business Bureau. Better Business Bureau, they do a lot of things for regular folks, just like me, and they do a lot of stuff for you, a lot of valuable tools on their website, bbb.org, but they also do a lot of things for businesses. And these are free tools that you can utilize when you go to bbb.org. That's the website for the Better Business Bureau. One of the things that they do, the Torch Awards. So this is something where, like, you get to nominate a local business, just somebody you think that when it comes to ethics and how they deal with their clientele, they just do a really good job. Better Business Bureau gives you a way to say, hey, we can honor somebody like that. Instead of just telling and bragging all your friends and writing a good review on a website somewhere, you can go to bbb.org and you can nominate a small local business or a big local business. You can nominate a local business for a Torch Award. They do a lot for businesses for you. Learn more, bbb.org.
Putin claims self-defense. I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. Russian President Vladimir Putin says his troops in Ukraine are fighting for the motherland, calling Ukrainian troops Nazis in a speech celebrating victory against the Nazis in World War II. Russia's ambassador to Poland at a cemetery in Warsaw to pay respects to Red Army soldiers killed in the war has red paint thrown at him by protesters carrying Ukrainian flags. First Lady Jill Biden's on her way back to Washington after a 4-day trip to Eastern Europe.
Mrs. Biden is now the most recent high-profile American visitor to Ukraine, setting foot in the country even before her husband. She met with Olena Zelenska, her Ukraine counterpart, saying that she wanted to arrive on Mother's Day and talk to moms about their experiences, as in this exchange.
How do you explain the war to your children, to Julia?
It's very difficult how I explain.
The First Lady spent a couple of hours in Ukraine touring a town near Slovakia, where she also got a look at a facility that is processing refugees. Gernal Scott, Fox News.
Police in DeKalb County, Georgia, are looking for a man who shot 6 people at a condominium complex. 3 died. There's been a fire at the office of a pro-life group in Wisconsin.
Wisconsin Family Action, which is opposed to legal abortion, says someone tossed a Molotov cocktail into its Madison office and spray painted the side of their building with a message reading, quote, "If abortions aren't safe, then you aren't either," unquote. Police are investigating the alleged arson, but it's unclear who's behind it. The lobbying group's president says she considers the fire a direct threat following the leak of a draft Supreme Court opinion indicating Roe v. Wade could be overturned. Tom Graham, Fox News.
The horse track Churchill Downs reports a record $179 million was in the betting pool for Saturday's Kentucky Derby, with the least money bet on the winner, Rich Strike. But at 80-1, long shot bettors made out. Rich Strike was added to the Derby field Friday after a late scratch. America's listening to Fox News.
If you're living with aches and pains, especially if they're frequent and nagging and relentless, I want you to take a moment and think back to the last time you really felt good. Can you even remember what it felt like? Now, here's even a more important question. What would you give to go back to feeling like that again? Maybe it would just be nice to take a stroll with your loved one or play with your grandchildren. I've suffered from persistent, crippling pain almost all the time for about 5 years. When I started taking Relief Factor, I took it because my wife made me start taking it. I didn't think it would work for me. me. Yet here I am today, virtually pain-free, doing the things I love to do, all thanks to my wonderful wife and Relief Factor. I love that it's not a drug, but it was developed by doctors, and about 70% of the people who try it go on to order more. Are you part of that 70% that can get your life back? Your first step to becoming pain-free just might be to order the 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Go to relieffactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF. Find out more about this offer. Feel the difference. relieffactor.com.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners, 7:03. Robinson saves you time. Currently 67 degrees. We should be mostly sunny today with a high of 89. Good morning, I'm Andy Humphrey. Columbia police are looking for a murder suspect after a weekend homicide. Officers say a warrant has been issued for Isaac Bryant for second-degree murder and armed criminal action after the incident early yesterday. Investigators say 37-year-old Demetrius Ware was shot on Grand Avenue near Sexton and Providence Roads. Ware was pronounced dead at a hospital. Anyone with info on Bryant's whereabouts should call Crime Stoppers at 573-875-TIPS. A Jefferson City man dies in a weekend motorcycle crash.
Police say 32-year-old Herschel White apparently locked up the rear brake and crashed the bike near Capital City High School Saturday. Investigators say White was thrown off the motorcycle and suffered severe head trauma. He was wearing a helmet. John Marsh, 93.9 The Eagle.
A Columbia man had to be flown to the hospital after a crash in Benton County. Troopers say a truck driven by 33-year-old Ricky Young ran off the right side of the road, overturned, and hit a fence on Highway BB near Allen Road on Saturday afternoon. Young has serious injuries. The patrol's crash report says he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. More education dollars are coming to Missouri's largest approved budget in state history. Lawmakers in the House and Senate passed the $48 billion budget at the end of last week. The budget includes enough money to fulfill the state's share of busing costs for K-12 schools. It also will increase teacher salaries to a minimum of $38,000 a year. Lawmakers also included more money to expand access to Medicaid in the state. The publisher of ComoBuzz.com says there is some stress between Boone County commissioners and Boone Hospital involving American Rescue Plan Act funds. Mike Murphy says the hospital is seeking $7 million in ARPA funds, while the county is moving slowly. He says the hospital could be an issue in the November race for Boone County's presiding commissioner.
I think it becomes a campaign issue during that race. Where exactly they stand on the county's relationship with the hospital and what they'd like to see done there.
Former Columbia State Rep Kip Kendrick faces Quality Drywall construction owner Connie Leopard in November. The winner will replace incumbent Dan Atwill, who's serving in that role, who has served as the Boone County presiding commissioner since 2011. Today is a Missouri holiday to observe Truman Day. Most state and county offices will be closed to observe former President Harry Truman's birthday. The nation's 33rd president was born 138 years ago in the southwest Missouri town of Lamar. President Truman implemented the Marshall Plan to help rebuild Western Europe's economy after World War II. 93.9 The Eagle News with the Candy Factory. Any time of year is a good time for tasty treats and delicious handmade chocolates and candies from the Candy Factory in downtown Columbia. Anniversary, birthday, any day. Find them at thecandyfactory.biz. It's 7:06. It was a series split for the Cardinals on the road against the Giants as San Francisco took yesterday's finale 4-3. Juan Yepez hit his first career home run for the Cards. They begin a 3-game series tomorrow at Busch Stadium against the Orioles. The Royals took the first game of a doubleheader against those Orioles 6-4 yesterday, then lost the second game 4-2. The two teams were rained out at Kauffman Stadium both Friday and Saturday. The final of that 3-game series starts tonight at 11:05. Today at 11:05, I should say, a.m. Carlos Hernandez gets the start on the mound for Kansas City. The Blues earned a much-needed playoff win against the Wild yesterday in St. Louis, 5-2. Jordan Kyrou and David Perron both scored twice. The Blues also switched to Jordan Binnington at goaltender, and he made 28 saves in the win. The first-round playoff series is now tied at 2 games apiece. Game 5 is tomorrow night in Minnesota. Mizzou baseball struggled over the weekend. They were swept at Ole Miss. The Tigers will try to bounce back at home this weekend against Florida starting Friday. Mizzou softball finished the regular season yesterday, falling to Alabama 3-1 on the road. Next up is the SEC tournament in Gainesville, where the 7th-seeded Tigers will face the 10th-seeded Auburn Tigers on Wednesday. Sports with Whit Print Shop. It's time to get with it, where your printed products are so much more than ink and paper. It's 7:07. Weather with Club Car Wash. Get an unlimited membership for just $20 a month. See more details at clubcarwash.com. Right now, 67. With MidmoHires.com, local companies looking for local people. Visit MidmoHires.com to find a job or post your job opening today. At the moment, haven't seen reports of major wrecks in the area. Starting to see your usual buildup along the secondary roads. In Jefferson City, it's Missouri Boulevard and Highway 50. Then Columbia Business Loop, Providence having some backup, but nothing major. Let us know if you see something major, though. 874-9390. Give us a call or a text. Again, 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Andy Humphrey, 93.9 The Eagle.
Ranked choice voting is another voting method which allows voters to rank their candidates in order of preference. In a ranked choice voting election, a candidate needs to earn more than half of the votes to win. All first choices are counted, and if a candidate has a majority, then they win, just like in other elections. If not, the candidate with the fewest votes is eliminated, and voters who pick that candidate as number one will have their votes counted for the next release.
I still don't understand ranked choice voting, probably because I had some preconceived notions about it, and a lesson that I learned from my dear sweet Hannah years ago, confirmation bias. Because I'm thinking, well, hey, progressives like this. It must be bad. And because of that lesson I learned all those months ago from the producer.
It's been a while.
It's been a while. Confirmation bias. But listen, there's changes in Jefferson City. Final week legislative session. Budget did get passed this past Feel Good Friday. Final week to get some things done. And there are some important things happening. And not just on a legislative front either.
Right. So yesterday was the deadline to turn in initiative petition signatures. So if you recall, every year, like some years there were like 300 petitions filed. But if you want your measure to get on the ballot, you have to go out, collect lots and lots of signatures. I think that the actual signature requirement for this year is 170,000 signatures. So many people probably have seen the signature collectors around doing their job, trying to get these things done. Apparently, 2 measures were turned in to qualify, and that was the first one's Legal Missouri, which is recreational marijuana. That one was turned in. They say they have 385,000 signatures according to the AP. And then also, and so you turn in a lot more signatures than you need because some of them are going to be duplicates. They're going to be wrong county. They're going to
not registered voters.
Not registered voters. All sorts of things like that. So what happens next is the secretary takes them. They're turned in a very specific format. They go out to the local election authorities. So for example, Brianna Lennon will get all the Boone County signatures. Then her team will go through and start counting and looking and reviewing the signatures and saying this one's good, this one's not, that kind of thing. And so anyway, recreational marijuana says they have 385,000 signatures. Better Elections, which is the ranked choice voting one, also turned in, and they say they've submitted more than 300,000 signatures. And so after it goes to the local election authorities, it comes back to the secretary. They review everything and kind of compile the numbers, and then they will issue a certification and say, yes, you did get enough signatures to get on the ballot. And that's still, a ways out.
The other thing is, if I remember my third grade civics course with Mr. John Turlington at Scruggs Elementary School, you have to have an X number of votes from each congressional district. You don't have to just meet in total. You have to have X number from each one, which reminds me, I was chatting with Brianna Lennon. She is the Boone County clerk. She's in charge of elections here locally. They are looking for poll workers. And if you are listening to Wake Up Columbia right now on 93.9 The Eagle, they are especially needing you to be a poll worker. By the way, you get a decent chunk of change when you work a poll. I had asked to be a poll worker, but they won't work around my hours. I swear to God, I did. I said, I'm like, hey, I'd be interested in being a poll worker because I want to experience it. But there's no flexibility in their scheduling.
So you want to experience it, you're just not willing to make it happen.
I'm not willing to make the sacrifice. I want to experience it, but I want to experience it on my terms. But seriously, Boone County, please reach out. And if you're listening to this show, they would really love for you to be a poll worker. You can reach out to the Boone County clerk's office, and then the marijuana thing. Now, these aren't things going through the legislature right now. We already know recreational weed has failed this year, but this is an initiative petition.
Right, and like you said, Brandon, so you do the signatures are broken up by congressional districts, so you do have to qualify in 6 of the 8. You have to collect fewer signatures if you're trying to get a statutory change, more signatures if you're trying to get a constitutional change. And so anyway, once these things, if the secretary says, yes, you've met the requirements, then it will go on the ballot. Now, whether it goes on, in August or November, I'm not sure. But I think the newsworthy thing here, in my mind, is that, people have been pushing initiative petition reform, saying, oh my gosh, we have all these initiatives. And there have been some years, there have been some years where they've turned in 5 initiatives. We had 3 marijuana ones in the last cycle. And so the fact that only 2 were turned in this year, I think is noteworthy. That it is, it's getting more expensive. I think, just from the labor perspective and from other things. But I don't know. There's probably lots of reasons why it was only 2 this year. But yeah, that's noteworthy, I think.
By the way, big stories today. So Jill Biden making a surprise visit in Ukraine over the weekend. There's apparently some high-level talks locally, big stories. Legislative session wraps up this week. All the bridges are still up early. The other big story, it's going to be stunningly. I really like that word. And if you listen to the show like, Brandon, he sure uses the word stunning a lot. I'm aware of it. I'm working on it. But it's going to get warm quick, and it's going to be that way for a few days, apparently.
Like mid-90s already. Later this week.
Yeah, so I would use stunning. I would use stunning to describe yesterday's weather, and I would use a different word to describe mid-90s.
Is this a radio-friendly word?
Probably not.
So today, like 90, 93 tomorrow, 91 on Wednesday. So it is going to be warm this week. That'll be one of the other big stories. Cousin Andy filling in for Brian Hauswirth. He is back tomorrow. Well, I got something. So those are the big stories. All the bridges are up. Congress, they're back in D.C. today. One of the things they're going to do, which they know is going to fail, codify Roe v. Wade. Mm-hmm. What else is going? I think those are really some of the big things. Weather is going to be affecting everybody. Last week, legislative session. But I do want to ask you about who's this kid for the Cardinals who's on fire? Like, came up from minor leagues this week, and he's just, and again, listen, beginner's luck sometimes. Freshman, you get in and you nail it. This guy's killing it.
I mean, he's done really well. First few games, this I believe was his first series with the team. But yeah, first home run yesterday, and they really like the way that he's hit the last few seasons down in the minors. So it's interesting. Everybody, I think, wanted Nolan Gorman to be called up instead of him, but I don't think that's his fault. I mean, he's the one that wants to be in the big leagues, and he's doing well so far.
Juan Yepes hit, I think his first couple of hits were doubles, and then he hit a home run. He's and again, just first few games. Some of us old-timers would probably remember Terry Pendleton. Terry Pendleton started, I don't know, it was a late game in the season, hadn't been on the Cardinals roster, called him up, and first game went like 4 for 6 or something at third base. Just took off, and then did have a good career. Cardinals second place, National League Central, so it's been fun following them here on 93.9 The Eagle. You listen to the Cardinals all season long, and the Blues with a nice win last night. Really needed that one, that series. That's tied up 2 games apiece. One more game in St. Louis before we go back up to the Netherlands of Minnesota. No, 1 game apiece.
Game 5's in Minnesota
game
tomorrow.
5, 6 would come back.
6 would come back.
Cousin Andy with the instant fact check.
That's right. The Ministry of Truth. He is on the board of governance as it relates to disinformation. And I just spread some disinformation, and Lord Andy said, we will have none of that.
What would you do without me?
You just got upgraded from Cousin Andy to Lord Andy.
Lord Andy, the truth czar. Other things happening, since there's really gas prices through the roof, it's back to where I can't fill up because I hit 75. They cut me off. One of our listeners, Dave, sent a picture. He's blaming me. He filled up this morning $109.
Oh, gosh.
Jeez.
I got just over half a tank last night for $45. I used to be able to fill up my whole car for less than that.
That's just insane. But he sends a link. You can text us, by the way, anytime, even if you're not calling in. I would encourage you, especially if you're a new texter, if you have never texted us before, feel free to do so. And it's not like you have to wait for us to ask you a question, but you hear something, you go, oh, hey, yeah. So he sent a text to 874-9390, and he says, yes, Branden, you did this. And due to your ignorance, we are adding a 45% surcharge on all freight. The people who voted for you deserve everything they get. A day of reckoning is coming, Branden. Be advised. I said, Dave.
That's really dark on a Monday.
Truly sorry. What can I do to make it right? He just laughed. Gas prices. Ouch. So there is all that. So we've got all the big stuff. Lawmakers going back to D.C. They're going to try to do some stuff there as it relates to Roe v. Wade. It's not going to happen. They don't have the votes. Final week legislative session is going to be warm. And then we got the important stuff out of the way. Let's move along to some other more fun stuff. There is a reporter. I think he's working for the BBC, and they're at some Formula One race thing. And he's looking around, and he's got producers in his ears saying, Patrick Mahomes is here. Patrick Mahomes is here. Go find that guy. He's got the beautiful olive skin and kind of the cool hair. Go chase him. So this reporter, while he's got people talking in his ears, and he's going, Patrick, Patrick. And this guy turns around, and the reporter's got him. Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick, Martin Brando, Formula One television in England. Yeah, I don't think you can hear me up there. Patrick, how are you? Good to see you on the grid here. What do you think of this atmosphere?
This is crazy. I've never been to an F1 race. This is spectacular.
It's amazing to be allowed right in the middle of the competitors just before the race starts.
Yeah, now you can see they locked in. It reminds me of myself. But the real focus.
Okay, it's not Patrick. That's why he ignored me. But what is your name, sir?
Paulo Banchero.
Right, okay. Well, I thought I was talking to somebody else. So I'm sorry about that. Whatever. Yeah. A little bit of misinformation in the ears there, but...
A little bit of misinformation in the ears there.
As soon as that guy opened his mouth, I was like, wait a second, that's not Patrick. That's not Kermit the Frog.
But, you know, they all look the same. All those athletes, they all look the same. And the dude, he's got kind of a little bit of the Patrick Mahomes vibe. Wasn't Patrick Mahomes. Thought that was... interesting, the reports. Well, this is what I was being told in my ear.
That's one of the most awkward things ever, is when you try to strike a conversation with somebody that you think you know, and turns out it's not who you thought it was.
There was an awards banquet, what is it, right there on Broadway and College, where Stevens College is, and they have that banquet room, and it's right there. And we're doing some event there one night, and I see our state auditor, Nicole Galloway, sitting. We've got a pretty good relationship. So I go up to her, and I go up, and I come up behind her and put my hand, Nicole, what are you doing? And she turns around, and I said, oh, crap.
Oh, my gosh.
Because it was not Nicole.
Okay, I've never gone that extreme.
Galloway.
Or like when you're driving and you see somebody that you think you know, and so you make a fool of yourself, you know, waving real big, like, you know, looking silly, and... you have no idea who the person is, and you just embarrassed yourself.
And they drive up, and they look by, and they're like...
I think the most awkward is when people have, like, an identical twin, and you see someone, and then you're just like... and so you think it's the same person, and so you're just like... and you're like, why does their face look so weird? Why aren't they being friendly? And it's like just... and I'm sure it's just as awkward for them, and you know, I've had this happen a couple of times. I hate that.
So be careful out there. You like on the Blues' chances? This is a tough series, tough game. Minnesota, we're knotted up to a piece.
I mean, they needed that win. Absolutely. You couldn't go down 3-1 with a series going back to Minnesota. So that they at least have themselves a chance now to keep it a long series. And if they went on the road, hey, anything can happen.
All right. Coming up, we are going to be doing What's Hot with Hannah today. What is hot?
How did a piece of ancient history end up at Goodwill?
We're going to find that out. Plus, don't be mad at me for this one. Paul, we take requests once in a while. We don't solicit them, but we take them. Last week, we took one from Chuck, wanted to hear some Rob Zombie. This from Paul, said, I wanted to hear it. Right, said Fred. Too sexy.
Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle. The world is watching on Facebook Live. Are you?
This MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history.
Unity. Remember that. He apparently doesn't remember it either. Welcome into the show. This is Wake Up Columbia. Branden, Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Hannah, the producer, cousin Andy, and for Brian tomorrow, who is going to be back on the show. For now, 7:28-ish, which means they're at 7:25-ish, which means it's
7:28.
Time for What's Hot with Hannah.
So the Goodwill buy of the century for $34.99 in Austin, Texas, was an ancient Roman bust that had been missing since World War II. This lady just was interested in it, thought it would be worth, the $35, and decided to do some research on it after she purchased the bust. And turns out it is a piece of ancient Roman history that was just sitting in an Austin, Texas Goodwill.
I love when there are stories we found. Look at what we found. We were in this cornfield in Iowa, had a little stuff in Pechichi, Iowa, at this little antique place, and look at what we found. It's Tutankhamun. We found him in Iowa. It's remarkable, apparently, what you can find at some of these things.
Experts are saying that they think what happened is one of the U.S. soldiers from Texas in World War II brought it home as a souvenir, and just over the years, his family didn't know what they were keeping, I guess, or giving to Goodwill.
Coming up here about 7:35, we're going to be looking what happened in Stephanie Bell's house for Mother's Day weekend. Nice surprise there. And what one dude did this weekend. He got a pretty nice find. Those stories coming up here on 93.9, the Eagle, 93.9, theeagle.com. I have your ABC 17 storm track forecast. Sunshine up to 89 today, 73 tonight. Tomorrow, a tad bit warmer. Tomorrow's high is going to be 93. Then Wednesday, we'll have a high of 91. Right now, 68. Stop by Club Car Wash. Get an unlimited membership, only $20 a month. Probably best thing to do. Get more details. Go to clubcarwash.com. Find the location near you.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. Investigators may now have more clues in the deaths of 3 U.S. tourists in the Bahamas at a sandals resort, where the probe reportedly centers around an air conditioner.
The Bahamas health minister saying he doesn't think this is a widespread threat.
We believe it's an isolated situation that revolves around 4 people that were impacted.
Well, here's what the U.S. State Department is saying about this. We can confirm the death of 3 U.S. citizens in the Bahamas. We are closely monitoring local authorities' investigation into the cause of death. We stand ready to provide all appropriate consular assistance.
Fox's Doug Luzader, a 4th person is in critical condition. And a nationwide shortage of baby formula sent a lot of parents scrambling for supplies.
It's kind of hit hard and fast, so it's been a little bit alarming.
Alana Contrill telling Fox and Friends she can't find any formula for her son. America's listening to Fox News.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners, 7:31. Robinson saves you time. Currently 68 degrees. Good morning, I'm Andy Humphrey. Columbia police are looking for a murder suspect after a weekend homicide. Officers say a warrant has been issued for Isaac Bryant for second-degree murder and armed criminal action after the incident early yesterday. Investigators say 37-year-old Demetrius Ware was shot on Grand Avenue near Sexton and Providence Roads. Ware was pronounced dead at a hospital. Anyone with info on Bryant's whereabouts should call Crime Stoppers. A Jefferson City motorcyclist is dead after losing control Saturday. Police say 32-year-old Herschel White apparently locked up his rear brake and crashed the bike near Capital City High School. Investigators say White was thrown off the motorcycle and suffered severe head trauma. He was wearing a helmet. A Columbia man suffers serious injuries after a crash in Benton County. The Highway Patrol says Ricky Young's truck ran off the right side of the road on Highway BB near Allen Road just after noon Saturday. The truck rolled over and hit hit a fence. Young was flown to the hospital with serious injuries. Investigators say he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Missouri lawmakers have passed a roughly $48 billion state budget bolstered by federal aid. The spending plan approved Friday includes enough money to fully pay for the state's share of public K-12 busing costs, as well as a program to increase teacher pay to at least $38,000 a year. The budget also pays for expanded access to the Medicaid health care program and a 5.5% funding increase for four-year colleges. The $48 billion budget is the largest in Missouri history. The publisher for ComoBuzz.com says the upcoming special election for Columbia's 3rd Ward council seat will be a key story. Mike Murphy says Northeast Columbia's 3rd Ward has contrasts.
You know, that area has some very, very nice residential developments, and it also has our worst part of town a couple blocks away.
Yeah.
It's where most of our violent crime takes place.
Incumbent Carl Scala and challenger Roy Lovelady tied in April with 1,102 votes. The special election is on August 2nd. You can hear the CEO Roundtable interview with Murphy at 939theeagle.com. Most state and county offices are closed today to observe Truman Day for the nation's 33rd president. Former President Harry Truman was born in 1884 in southwest Missouri's Lamar and later moved to Independence. President Truman issued the executive order that integrated the U.S. military and started the Truman Doctrine. He was inducted into the Hall of Famous Missourians at the State House in Jefferson City in 1991. His bronze bust is still on display there. 93.9 The Eagle News with Willett Dental Associates. 4 out of 10 people are scared of the dentist, but Willett Dental Associates practices conscious sedation dentistry to relax those fears. Make an appointment now at 573-445-5300 or WillettDentalAssociates.com. It's 7:34. The Cardinals were edged out by the Giants yesterday, 4-3 on the road, splitting a 4-game series. Juan Yepez hit his first career home run for St. Louis in the loss. The Cards are off today and will start a 3-game set with the Orioles at home tomorrow. After 2 straight rainouts Friday and Saturday, the Royals split a doubleheader with the Orioles yesterday, winning the first game 6-4, then losing 4-2 in the second game. Kansas City will finish out their series with Baltimore today at 11:05 a.m. Carlos Hernandez will start for the Royals. The Blues evened up their first-round playoff series with the Wild after a 5-2 victory in Game 4 yesterday in St. Louis. Jordan Kyrou and David Perron both had 2 goals apiece, and Jordan Binnington made 28 saves in net. The series is tied at 2-2. Game 5 is tomorrow night at 8:30 in Minnesota. Mizzou baseball was swept on the road at Ole Miss over the weekend, losing yesterday 10-2. They will host Florida for their final conference home series starting Friday. Mizzou softball dropped 2 out of 3 games at Alabama to finish the regular season. They will be the 7th seed in this week's SEC tournament in Gainesville, Florida. Their first game is against the 10-seed Auburn on Wednesday afternoon. Sports with Atterbury Auction and Realty Company, Mid-Missouri's most trusted online and live auction company specializing in real estate and personal property auctions. Visit AtterburySells.com. It's 7:35. With MidboHires.com, local companies looking for local people. Visit MidboHires.com to find a job or post your job opening today. Not looking at any reports of wrecks at the moment in Columbia and Jefferson City. Got your usual buildup when it comes to the start of your morning drive, but nothing major to report. If you do see something major, let us know at 874-9390 with a call or a text. Again, 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Andy Humphrey, 93.9 The Eagle.
The radio station, 93.9 The Eagle. The show, Wake Up Columbia, with Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, and Hannah the producer, giving you news, analysis, and opinion.
It turned out to be a battle, and man, did he battle. He had so many surgeries, we lost count. We jokingly started referring to him as Otis the Bullet Dodger. He fought through so much and just kept on trucking. But nobody dodges them all. And when yet another tumor arrived, it turned out to be the bullet with his name on it. I don't know what in my life has made me cry like this. Such profound sadness over a love that was so damn pure.
Scott Van Pelt, ESPN, utilizing his dog on the air. I thought that was really cool because, man, you've ever had a pet. And Stephanie's family is about to get this. They got a little hamster, and they will have Scott Van Pelt so much love for this dog that he's utilizing the dog. He's eulogizing the dog on air. That's what Stephanie's family's. They've got this hamster now. I think they got it because they feel guilty because mom's never home for the kids. So
ouch.
Am I off base here? If I am, correct me. But hey, sorry, mom's not home a lot. Here's a hamster.
I wasn't home long enough to protest. They got the hamster for keeping their rooms cleaned, which was a deal between them and Dad. Mom's not here to pick up your room, so I got to bribe you in another way to keep your room clean.
Well, gosh, without Mom there, that's the only thing they can do is just clean up their room
Branden,
all the time.
come
Good
on.
Lord.
Mom's not here.
But I don't think it's going to be the same as the dog. I got an update from my husband today that apparently the lifespan of a hamster is like 2 years or less.
Try to hide some of the joy coming out in your voice right now, Stephanie. Sounded a little too excited about that lifespan.
Lifespan of a hamster is like a week and a half. I can do this.
You know, I'm not going to say that I'm not kind of sometimes a little salty about my fish. I'm like, how are you still hanging on? I thought fish is like, we've had a beta, and the first one didn't make it this long, but the one we've had now is like going to live forever, I swear.
In the little bowl, one of the things that you can do is like, if you have a beta especially, and they're in those little fish bowls, when I used to keep exotic boas and pythons, we'd keep exotic fish, and you take them and you can put them in your freezer, and that will help expedite the process. This guy, Scott Van Pelt, he's a pretty well-known personality on ESPN. Yep. He's been there forever. I thought that was very sweet, because if you've ever had a dog that you've loved, man, love my dogs that I used to have.
Okay, hang on a second. So this morning alone, you've talked about breeding hamsters, your exotic snake collection, your exotic fish breeding operation. Now you had dogs.
Brandon's like the Mid-Missouri Tiger King or something over here.
I sure am.
And you're just
that witch, Carol Baskins. I swear to God, Carol Virus, Carol Baskins. Hell yes.
You're just missing a mullet and a couple husbands.
So the thing is, this guy, he's eulogizing his dog on air, and I just thought it was a beautiful moment because, and you might be faced with this decision too, because your kids are going to fall in love with this hamster. I hope they haven't given it a name yet, because one of the key rules, you get a hamster or something like that, just don't name it, because then there's no emotional attachment. Did you guys name it?
Its name is Ice Cream.
Oh,
of course
man.
It is.
Well, it's too late. So now the kids are emotionally attached to this thing that's going to live for, it'll have the lifespan of a mayfly, is what I expect, mostly.
I don't know. I think that this might turn Stephanie into a pet person.
Nope. Not
Maybe.
a chance. That was the only downside to Seattle, actually. I looked at my husband, I'm like, why does everyone here have a dog? There were so many dogs. Ugh.
Why was that a downside?
Because I don't like dogs.
Man.
And they like let them in the buildings. Ugh.
Oh my gosh.
Oh,
the atrocities.
The horror.
We were in like a restaurant, and this was not a dog. It was like a miniature horse. I mean, huge. Huge dogs. Chris, if you're listening, let me know what kind of dog that was. But I mean, seriously, that's weird in a restaurant, right? That's weird. Just call me Cruella. That's fine.
But I'm wondering how much money, because if this hamster develops like canine parvo or something, which I'm pretty sure is something hamsters can get.
Right.
A new hamster is $20.
But
they're only $20.
I thought that was kind of steep.
But it's the emotional attachment that your kids have. So do you go and do this hamster died, we're going to flush it down the toilet, go get a new one that looks just like it? Or how much money are you willing to spend for vet bills?
Zero. On a hamster, zero.
What on your dog? I've been faced with it. Thank gosh, I've never really, really been faced with it. But I love my dogs, and I'm wondering about this Scott Van Pelt, who's on TV eulogizing his dog. And it has always made me wonder how much money, if you have a dog, a pet dog, have you ever had that conversation like, okay, if things get really bad, how much money am I willing to get the dog for whatever repairs it might need?
I think for most people it's unlimited. I mean, we have that vet hospital here, and I've had people be like, I'm in Columbia from somewhere far away because I've driven to Columbia for my pet to have this super fancy surgery that's only available in Columbia.
Now, there is pet insurance. Just like you would have health insurance on yourself, there's pet insurance.
Ah, okay.
Because I'm trying to think of the dogs, because just like kids, you have favorite dogs. Stephanie revealed to us last week she has a favorite kid. Congratulations, Eden. But we have favorite pets. And like there's a dog, I love this dog. Durango was his name. He was a wolf hybrid, beautiful dog. But how much am I willing to spend on that? 1,000? Sure. 5,000? Have you ever been faced with that dilemma? You used to keep, of course, you guys would slaughter your animals and eat them because you were a farmer. You were FFA, right?
No, I did not grow up on a farm. But yes, I was an FFA.
So your animals, you'd have to invest a lot of money into them if they became in ill health.
Yeah, I mean, my ducks, fortunately, I didn't have any major health issues with, but, my dog had to go to the vet a few times. And when we did put her down a couple years ago, God, this is terrible. When we did put her down a couple years ago, I mean, money was a factor in that. She was pretty old, but we had to have the conversation of, money invested versus lifespan. Yeah. It was part of the decision to euthanize her, yeah.
So money does come into play. How much money are we willing to keep? Saturday, I was walking the MKT trail, and this gal, I think her name was Amber or it was Amanda, and she had a dog, cute dog. And it occurs to me, everybody's talking to the dog, and it's just, I think it may have been a Pomeranian crossed with like a Great Dane or something. I mean, it was just...
Wait, how does that work?
That's why everybody was stopping to talk to the dog. And so I stopped and I asked this girl, I says, does it bother everybody when you're walking the dog? People, they'll stop and talk to the dog and ask the dog's name. But do they ever ask you your name? And she stops and she goes, you know what? No, actually they don't. It's all about the dog. And I said, isn't that funny? And we got to talking. She says, yeah. It's kind of interesting. They'll stop, want to know my dog's name, know all about my dog. They'll say not one word to me. And so I thought, well, what a great opportunity. So I turned around and I said to her, so what is the dog's name, incidentally?
Man.
Coming up here on 93.9 The Eagle and 93.9theeagle.com. So it says one of the big things today, final week legislative session in Jefferson City, and then weather. How's weather looking over the next few days, Andy?
Hot. I mean... all of a sudden, we're into the 90s, probably going to touch 90 today, and then around 94, 95 later in the week. My gosh.
Stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid.
Why it's always 0 to 60, or in this case, 0 to 90. We don't get to enjoy spring temperatures. It's always freezing or hot.
874-9390. Our weather changes like one of those new Corvette ZR6s, 0 to 60 in no time flat. 874-9390, 874-9390 if there's something that we can do for you this morning. Coming up a little bit later, I love this. Mike Murphy, he has comobuzz.com, local publication, comobuzz.com. And he's looking at kind of local news outlets. I talk about local news outlets all the time. I do want to share this, though. Maybe this is something I'll share with Mike Murphy. But somebody turned me on to this over the weekend, and I wanted to make sure that I don't forget it, but it had to do with somebody mislabeling a tweet. Let me find the tweet here. So there is out on Twitter a news organization had to correct a post because they were saying, hey, this is a pro-choice protest in town, and then they had to come on and correct it and said, oh, sorry, it wasn't pro-choice, it was pro-abortion. It was a pro-abortion protest. And this news outlet, I guess, gets eviscerated because they didn't use the word pro-choice. They said pro-abortion, which, as I understand it, is equally acceptable. Love that. 874-9390. Ed, what's on your mind?
You were talking about euthanizing animals.
Yeah.
And I was raised on a farm, and you can't have 47 dogs running around. So in the average litter of 6 to 8 pups, you decide if you want to keep 1 or 2, but we take the rest of them down the edge of the woods, dig a hole, pop them up against a tree, kill them instantly, throw them in the hole, and bury them. As crude as that sounds.
Wow. When you put it that way. But you had to.
Yeah.
It was necessity.
It is.
It was
animal control and finances. Yes, exactly.
It was necessity. We simply cannot take care of all of these youngins. And people would say, well, go put the dogs up for adoption. There's not
and
enough.
It was quick and merciful. They didn't suffer.
Ed, thank you for the phone call. Appreciate you being a part of Wake Up Columbia on 93.9 The Eagle and 93.9theeagle.com. Jack says, if the dog is family, should money come into the conversation? Only if you do it with other family members. Hey, Hannah, Cousin Andy's been real sick.
Oh, no.
We're going to have to take him to the doctor, but I don't know. Do we have a budget here?
I'm thinking like $1,500.
Like $1,500? Is that the max we're willing to pay? Because I think that's what Jack is saying here. If your dog is your family, money doesn't come into the conversation. So how much?
You're the one who admitted that money does affect your healthcare decisions, that the only thing that really caused you to go get a vaccine was the fact that one of somebody you know had COVID and ended up with a big hospital bill. And that's what tipped your scale to say, hey, I don't want a big hospital bill. I'm going to go get the shot.
I don't want a big hospital bill. I want to get it on an airplane.
Hi, this is Henry, and I'm Brandon's dad. My favorite show on 93.9 The Eagle is The Gary Nolan Show.
So it just looks like a loser issue for the party that is trying to win back the working class, that we're going to subsidize. We who didn't go to college and didn't benefit from that are going to subsidize you to get your degree in gender studies and sports marketing and all the other bullshit that they take in account.
So that's Bill Maher from over the week. And what I think is interesting is the reaction of the audience. Bill Maher, listen, he goes after everybody, and he is smart. He goes after progressives, liberals, middle of the roads, conservatives. He goes after everybody. One of the reasons I especially have a sense of appreciation for what he does. But I like the reaction from the crowd. He's making a smart, funny point about this whole, wait a minute. You are supposed to subsidize somebody's you're supposed to do away with their college debt. They signed paperwork, said, yes, I will take this loan. I will pay it back. But I'm supposed to pay for that? And some of these people, I think the delay in the reaction here, I think it says a lot.
To get your degree in gender studies?
It takes them a while, the audience. They're like, oh, yeah. That's funny, but I'm uncomfortable because I'm in favor of some of this stuff. But now, Bill, now you say those words out loud, I'm realizing that is inherently a bad idea to just go and wipe out student debt. To wipe out these kids who paid loans, who signed up, who agreed to pay the loans back. That is a bad idea because you have to go to socialism to pay it off. I have to take money from Stephanie and give it to this person to pay for debt you incurred. They get past that flowery, oh, yes, I would love to have my debt paid off. It'd be wonderful. And then they get the reality. And you can tell in the reaction, they're like, that's kind of, oh, I see what you're saying. We're going to take a look at how some local news outlets handle their business. Mike Murphy, ComoBuzz.com, is going to be joining us coming up about 10 minutes after 8.
On the record on abortion, I'm Chris Foster, Fox News. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer says he'll be filing today to set up a vote Wednesday to debate a bill meant to solidify federal abortion rights.
Schumer and other leading Democrats say a vote is urgent, given that draft Supreme Court opinion that would overturn the Roe v. Wade precedent. But advancing the measure will need 60 votes. Earlier this year, a similar vote failed to win a simple majority in the 50-50 divided Senate. Republicans argue the Democrats' bill is extreme, going much further than even the Roe precedent by allowing unrestricted abortions throughout a woman's pregnancy. Jared Halpern, Fox News.
The last civilians who'd been taking shelter for weeks inside a steel mill in Mariupol, Ukraine, are now said to be evacuated out of the city. Ukrainian fighters are still there, though, in a last stand against Russian troops. It's Victory Day in Russia, celebrating the defeat of the Nazis in World War II.
Russian President Vladimir Putin gave that highly anticipated speech in Moscow's Red Square. There was speculation that Putin may declare war against Ukraine or call for a general mobilization, but Putin did not declare anything new. He looked and sounded okay and was walking about freely. Also here in Ukraine, First Lady Jill Biden made a surprise visit over the weekend, meeting with Ukraine's First Lady, who had not been seen in public since the invasion began in February. That meeting happened at a school converted to assist refugees in southwestern Ukraine. Dr. Biden said she thought it was important to show the Ukrainian people that this war has to stop.
Fox's Matt Finn in Lviv, Ukraine. Internet service will be effectively free for tens of millions of low-income Americans under a program announced by the White House today. 20 internet service providers agree to charge $30 a month for those customers, which is then covered under federal subsidies passed in the infrastructure bill that went through Congress last November. Stocks are looking to be starting the day off down, with futures lower ahead of the opening bell on Wall Street this hour. Dow futures are down 395 points. America's listening to Fox News.
Life is about being active. Whether it's about going on your daily tasks or exercising, you know you're well when you're regularly active. But what happens when being active actually hurts by the end of the day? This is the position I found myself in a number of years ago. Everything I wanted to do in my daily life, all of the activity it called for, was held captive to almost constant nagging pain. When I heard about Relief Factor, I was skeptical, but my wife said, give it a chance. Not long after I took it, I could feel the pain begin to melt away, and I've been taking it ever since. And I can tell you that Relief Factor has helped me get my life back. I love that it's not a drug, but it was developed by doctors, and about 70% of the people who try it go on to order more. Your first step to becoming pain-free just might be ordering a 3-week quick start for only $19.95. Go to ReliefFactor.com or call 800-4RELIEF, 800-4RELIEF, or ReliefFactor.com. Find out all about this offer and feel the difference.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners, 8:03. Robinson saves you time. Currently 71 degrees. Mostly sunny skies for today and a high of 89. We're supposed to get up to 95 later this week. Good morning. I'm Andy Humphrey. Columbia police are looking for a murder suspect after a weekend homicide. Officers say a warrant has been issued for Isaac Bryant for second-degree murder and armed criminal action after the incident early yesterday. Investigators say 37-year-old Demetrius Ware was shot on Grand Avenue near Sexton and Providence Road. Ware was pronounced dead at a hospital. Anyone with info on Bryant's whereabouts should call Crime Stoppers at 573-875-TIPS. A Jefferson City man dies in a weekend motorcycle crash.
Police say 32-year-old Herschel White apparently locked up the rear brake and crashed the bike near Capital City High School Saturday. Investigators say White was thrown off the motorcycle and suffered severe head trauma. He was wearing a helmet. John Marsh, 93.9 The Eagle.
A Columbia man had to be flown to the hospital after a crash in Benton County. Troopers say a truck driven by 33-year-old Ricky Young ran off the right side of the road, overturned, and hit a fence on Highway BB near Allen Road on Saturday afternoon. Young has serious injuries. The patrol's crash report says he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. More education dollars are coming in Missouri's largest approved budget in state history. Lawmakers in the House and Senate passed the $48 billion budget at the end of last week. The budget includes enough money to fulfill the state's share of busing costs for K-12 schools. It also will increase teacher salaries to a minimum of $38,000 a year. Lawmakers also included more money to expand access to Medicaid in the state. The publisher of ComoBuzz.com says there is some stress between Boone County commissioners and Boone Hospital involving American Rescue Plan Act funds. Mike Murphy says the hospital is seeking $7 million in ARPA funds, while the county is moving slowly. He says the hospital could be an issue in the November race for Boone County's presiding commissioner.
I think it becomes a campaign issue during that race. where exactly they stand on the county's relationship with the hospital and what they'd like to see done there.
In that presiding commissioner race, former Columbia State Rep Kip Kendrick will face Quality Drywall construction owner Connie Leopard in November. The winner will replace incumbent Dan Atwell, who has served in that role since 2011. Today is a Missouri holiday to observe Truman Day. Most state and county offices will be closed to observe former President Harry Truman's birthday. The nation's 33rd president was born 138 years ago in the southwest Missouri town of Lamar. President Truman implemented the Marshall Plan to help rebuild Western Europe's economy after World War II. 93.9 The Eagle News Time, 8:05. It was a series split for the Cardinals on the road against the Giants as San Francisco took yesterday's finale 4-3. Juan Yepez hit his first career home run for the Cards. They begin a 3-game series tomorrow at Busch Stadium against the Orioles. The Royals took the first game of a doubleheader against those Orioles 6-4 yesterday, then lost the second game 4-2. The two teams were rained out at Kauffman both Friday and Saturday. The finale of that 3-game series starts today at 11:05. Carlos Hernandez gets the start on the mound for Kansas City. The Blues earned a much-needed playoff win against the Wild yesterday in St. Louis, 5-2. Jordan Kyrou and David Perron both scored twice. The Blues also switched to Jordan Binnington at goaltender, and he made 28 saves in the win. The first-round playoff series is now tied at 2 games apiece. Game 5 is tomorrow night in Minnesota. Mizzou baseball struggled over the weekend, losing all 3 games on the road against Ole Miss. The Tigers will try to bounce back with a 3-game set at home against Florida starting Friday. Mizzou softball finished the regular season yesterday, falling to Alabama 3-1 on the road. Next up is the SEC tournament in Gainesville, where the 7th-seeded Tigers will face the 10th-seeded Auburn Tigers on Wednesday. It's 8:07. Weather with Club Car Wash. Get an unlimited membership for just $20 a month. See more details at clubcarwash.com. Right now, 71. With MidmoHires.com. Local companies looking for local people. Visit MidmoHires.com to find a job or post your job opening today. Seeing your usual buildup along the secondary roads in Columbia and Jefferson City, but at the moment, nothing major on the highways in either of those two towns or really surrounding area as well. So that's good news. If you see something that is not looking great on the roads, 874-9390 is how you can call or text us to let us know about it. 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Andy Humphrey, 93.9 The Eagle.
President Biden has not focused enough on this issue. He hasn't even said the word abortion since taking office. I'm curious, given what we discussed in our previous segment about him not even mentioning the word abortion thus
to abort a child based on a decision by the Supreme Court, I think goes way overboard.
Biden, right before he's getting ready to get on to Air Force One, or he was surrounded by a bunch of snakes hissing and everything. But they're saying, well, Biden even hasn't said those words. He hasn't said those words. Well, he has said the words, and it's not about that. Is what it's about is media lies, national news outlet lies, whether it be by omission or covertly trying to change words. We see it all the time, and I think we see it all the time locally. By the way, I want to give one of our news outlets, our local news outlets, I want to give them some kudos. So apparently, as I understand it, and I want to thank Jackie for turning me on to this, apparently local news outlet accidentally called a Columbia rally an anti-abortion rally, and then they sent a correction tweet calling it pro-abortion, which I guess technically it is pro-abortion, but the tweet says correction pro-abortion protest. And last thing I see, they have left that one up and folks are upset at them, but that is accurate. I want to bring in Mike Murphy. Mike Murphy has Como Buzz, Como Buzz 1Z, comobuzz.com, and this has to do with local politics. Seriously, check it out. It's in depth. I know there's been some other publications in the past. There was one that was always talking about the $300 million in some Swiss bank account, and that would get everybody's attention, and that was just that's not what this is. This is legit stuff. Mike Murphy, who runs comobuzz.com, picked up on a story from the Kansas City Star to look at some inaccuracies in this story. Mike, welcome back into the show. So what is the focus of your story here, which is at comobuzz.com?
Good morning, everybody. I read the story in the actually, I read it online from the Kansas City Star. Didn't think much of it. It was a pretty biased account of what's going on in Columbia along the lines of their defund the police movement. It's basically a story that was proposing or being a proponent and advocating for moving money into social services to solve the gun violence problem in town. It's a common thing. It's a common theme that's going on, and it just pretty much hit all the highlights of that. It didn't really have much of the other side of the story, anybody representing the more police or law enforcement side of the story. But I thought it was just a Kansas City Star piece and didn't think much of it. I thought it was really odd that it showed up in the Columbia Tribune then afterwards, because they're not related in any way. But it wasn't until I heard the chief on the police chief on your show, and then there was a correction issued by the Kansas City Star that said that not only did the story said that the mayor and the chief repeatedly declined to speak with them, and it turns out that, to make a long story short now, the chief and the mayor were totally willing to meet with them and have emails to prove it for more than 2 months before the story was proved. So that was a demonstrable falsehood.
And I'm anxious to hear more of what you got on that, because it was completely. So I had exceptions to this Kansas City Star, Columbia Daily Tribune story even before, because gun violence. Well, when was the last time they did a series on fist violence or knife violence? But it's neither here nor there, and I saw the bend. But the thing that frustrated me about the story, and we need to get the community involved, we need to march and hold up signs, say stop the killing. We've been doing that for years, doesn't work. Happened by chance to have Chief Jeff Jones in here, and he says, oh, by the way, that story you wrote, he says, that's complete. I don't think those were his exact words. So I reached out to this reporter that did the story at the Kansas City Star. I said, hey, you're saying this. I have the chief, and I sent a link to the podcast, which anybody can access by going to our website, downloading the podcast. Sent her a link. Here's the chief's comment saying he has months of communications with you and former Mayor Brian Treese. So I reached out to this reporter at the Kansas City Star. Here's what I got back, Mike. It was a link, and it says, we've updated the story to better reflect our history of communications. Now, I get it. I make mistakes sometimes, but I don't want to believe that this was a mistake. In my opinion, it's intentional that they put that in. They wouldn't talk to us. What is your take on that whole we did talk, didn't want to talk? How do you read that?
Well, if you're a professional reporter, you actually make notes in your notebook when you attempt to contact somebody and they're not there. And you would be specific if you're really doing your job right. I attempted to contact them 5 times over this period of time, and I just couldn't do it. In this case, they were standing by ready to meet with her. She's got emails that say they're standing by ready to meet with her, and she wrote in a story that they were declined to comment or declined to participate in the story. So I don't know how you can put any kind of they did their best job of the correction did the best job of obfuscating what was going on there as far as I'm concerned.
We're changing it to better reflect our history of communication. In other words, somebody called you out on it, and it was just some little dude in the middle of Missouri that questioned you on it. That's all it took, man. That's all it took for them to kind of tell the truth, and that's stunning. And I'm not a journalist like you are, but to me, that's stunning, and it's bothersome.
Yeah. Well, as you know from the story, then I took that. I was very bothered by that, too, and decided to look more into the story. And that's when I came upon this fact that they're raising money to fund themselves now. Okay, so they're taking donations, so they go out and pitch stories and get funded. So they received about $500,000 to do this gun violence prevention story.
Wait, hold up. The Kansas City Star?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So a thing called the Missouri Foundation for Health, which is a huge public health foundation. It used to be Blue Cross Blue Shield of Missouri before it broke up 20 years ago. They gave them $250,000. Another journalism organization gave them another $250 plus. And basically, the disturbing thing is the story totally parrots the talking points of the Missouri Foundation for Health. So what I think is I don't know how you can be more egregious than just lying about something in a story, but now you come to find out that the story was basically funded, and the story representing itself as journalism is basically parroting the talking points of the people who paid them.
Yeah, and you get into where, hey, we are paying you to do this story. That is new to me. I didn't know that you had uncovered that. Mike Murphy, ComoBuzz.com, Buzz with one Z, ComoBuzz.com. Anything else interesting that you uncovered as you started really scoping out some of what was in this story?
No, I think you got to go find it online and read it. I wrote it really long. I don't think that a ton of people. I don't see this as being a very high-interest story, but if you're involved in journalism, and I think in government in general, I think this is a development that is really quite shocking. Now major American journalism at the Kansas City Star is being funded by interest groups.
Wow, that crazy is, I think that's crazy. And I wonder sometimes, and it's easy, and I try to be careful because I got to work with some of these guys around here too, but I do like to highlight when the local guys, when it's just, for example, one of the biggest ones that gets me, and I ask, I'm not saying because, maybe I've got it wrong, but I think just once, for example, Columbia, Missouri, and last week, election law changes nearing passage in Missouri Senate. And I get that is fairly accurate. But why not use the word election law improvements nearing passage in the Missouri Senate? Wouldn't that be a good word?
It has to do with your worldview, Branden.
Exactly.
So I have a question, though. Is the Star, are they putting disclaimers on these articles that they're putting out that they're being paid for?
If you work hard at it, not one single person I've talked to would know that there's a disclaimer. But how I actually got onto it as I went to their story is they talk there's in parentheses somewhere that says this story is part of a partnership with a thing called Report for America and the Missouri Foundation for Health. So if you want to look at, so that would be their way of saying, yes, we're telling you that this is their disclaimer, so to speak. So I went and researched Missouri Foundation for Health and this Report for America and got onto this story, if you will. So yes, they have some cover for themselves.
Right, pretty interesting. Anything else that you wanted? Because I want to run some separate of this story. Wanted to just kind of run a couple of things by you and get your thoughts on these. Anything else that you needed to include as it relates to this story that's on ComoBuzz.com?
Yeah, it's really detailed on ComoBuzz.com. I spent quite a bit of time on it because I thought it was news to me, and I think it's pretty important, so it's all there if somebody wants to take a look.
All right. I love this from the Missouri, and again, it's just me. I've got preconceived notions. I've got confirmation bias. I admit it. Columbia's public transit, the headline, Searching for Solutions to Columbia's Public Transit. And the story has to do with ridership. It implies there's the problem with Columbia's public transit. The problem, in my mind, is we spend too much money on something. There are very few people using this. You use the same amount of gas whether you're picking up 3 people on those routes that day or whether you're picking up 20. To me, it's just a monumental waste of money, but trying to pose it as there's problems with the public transit system. You think I'm out of line on that one? Tell me if I am.
No, you got to understand the nature of the Missourian or any newspaper, small newspaper that operates like they do. They have to create problems to go write about it. So that somebody gets assigned, go look into this. They don't come back and tell you what you just said. That would not be a story they would run. So they do what they can to look into what they can find, and nobody really cares, and nobody even really reads it, frankly. They come back and write it up, and it passes off for what they're putting out as journalism, which that sounds really judgmental, and I don't really mean it that way. I take it as that's just what it is.
When we look at it and we go to a national level now, and this really has nothing to do with headlines, but as much as the actions of some journalist, NBC News admitting that they have 11 articles that was written by a political reporter and 11 different instances of plagiarism. So it's not necessarily bending the truth, but really just somebody being lazy. Mike Murphy, ComoBuzz.com. Anything else before we let you go, bud?
Nope, thanks for having me on.
Hey, thanks for coming on. Como Buzz with 1Z, ComoBuzz.com. Good local stuff. Coming up, Morning Bell business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you. What do you have for us today?
Do you even have to ask Elon Musk? His Twitter is lighting people up again.
You know, it's funny. Folks got lit up, but I'm looking at recent history, and I'm like, yeah.
Understandable.
Understandable. I can't wait for this, Steph. That's
People are talking about Branden Rathert.
He's an outstanding man, and I'm sure that he'll do very well. I think he's just outstanding.
This is Wake Up Columbia, 93.9 The Eagle.
This MAGA crowd is really the most extreme political organization that's existed in American history.
Unity. Remember January 20th, 2021? Unity. That's important. People said back then, why are you focusing on the word unity? Because he promised what we knew he was going to lie about. Unity. We're going to bring you together. And MAGA supporters, just the most vile thing we've ever said. So much for another one of those lies, born of January 20th. 2021. So we don't say these things to pick, and it's just to show you, especially if you talk to somebody today and they're politically homeless, you say, well, listen, here's our thing, fiscal conservative, and this is what we believe, and this is what we don't believe. And we can use these things as points of fact. See, you got a guy now who takes naps in the White House, and he lied, we're going to be about unity. And he takes every chance he can get to swipe at people like me and you. That don't agree with him. That is definitely not unity. 8:28, time for the Morning Bell with Stephanie Bell. Business news with that little twist that only Stephanie Bell can give you. Twist today in the Morning Bell, Morning Bell with Stephanie Bell. It features Elon Musk.
Not a twist. But apparently over the weekend he said, he tweeted, if I die under mysterious circumstances, it's been nice knowing ya. And that freaked a lot of people out, including his mom, who said, that's not funny. And he replied, sorry, I'll do my best to stay alive. Other people were like, do you have dirt on the Clintons? And apparently the Clintons was trending for a while on Twitter over that. And there's just been, in business, there's been other folks that have been arrested, people who died under suspicious circumstances. And so everyone's kind of thinking, what's going on? Why is he tweeting this out and thinking that he could be in danger? And I think it's a scary time, I think, and we see what's going on with the protests at justices' homes, that just based on your words or based on your ideas, based on your position, based on your actions in business, that you legitimately could feel concern for your own life. And I think that's scary.
That's what I do. Every day when I leave work, I'm like, hey, if for some reason something happens to me, Stephanie or Hannah, pay attention to one of them. Well, and then when you have the national news outlets that react like this.
Elon Musk, I guess he misses the old South Africa in the 80s. He wants that back.
My tummy meter says there's something just not great about this.
Elon Musk says, wow, this is about free speech. It seems to me that it's about free speech of straight white men.
Elon Musk lives in a world in which the only kind of free speech is white men.
How we are going to control the channels of communication in this country.
You have politically minded people like Elon Musk who are trying to dominate public discourse around the world.
Not trying to dominate public discourse, doing the exact opposite of what you are saying.
Well, and I guess Russian media has been condemning some of his actions with respect to Ukraine, and so people are now speculating that his tweet had to do with Russia. But we'll see.
Mother's Day weekend, I think this dude locally may have had one of the coolest weekends. What he did is coming up, and then before 8:50, more on Mental Health Awareness Month.
Stop by Club Car Wash to get an unlimited membership for just $20 a month. See more details at clubcarwash.com.
Fox News, I'm Lillian Wu. In the fight over abortion, a weekend of continued unrest.
Pro-abortion protesters planted themselves outside the homes of Supreme Court Chief Justice John Roberts and Associate Justice Brett Kavanaugh.
My body, my choice.
And in Madison, Wisconsin, somebody firebombed the offices of a pro-life group, marking the walls with a message saying they won't be safe.
Fox's Evan Brown.
More than 300 marched Sunday at San Diego's Balboa Park. The protests were sparked by the leak of a draft opinion authored by Justice Samuel Alito overturning Roe v. Wade.
Democrats are pushing to advance a bill to formally make abortion legal nationwide, but it likely doesn't have enough votes to pass. And celebrity chef Mario Batali's sexual misconduct trial opened in Boston today. America's listening to Fox News.
93.9 The Eagle News Time with Robinson's Cleaners, 8:31. Robinson saves you time. Currently 73 degrees. Good morning, I'm Andy Humphrey. Columbia police are looking for a murder suspect after a weekend homicide. Officers say a warrant has been issued for Isaac Bryant for second-degree murder and armed criminal action after the incident early yesterday. Investigators say 37-year-old Demetrius Ware was shot on Grand Avenue near Sexton and Providence Roads. Ware was pronounced dead at a hospital. Anyone with info on Bryant's whereabouts should call Crime Stoppers. A Jefferson City motorcyclist is dead after losing control Saturday. Police say 32-year-old Herschel White apparently locked up his rear brake and crashed the bike near Capital City High School. Investigators say White was thrown off the motorcycle and suffered severe head trauma. He was wearing a helmet. A Columbia man suffered serious injuries after a crash in Benton County. The Highway Patrol says Ricky Young's truck ran off the right side of the road on Highway BB near Allen Road just after noon Saturday. The truck rolled over and hit a fence. Young was flown to the hospital with serious injuries. Investigators say he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. Missouri lawmakers have passed a roughly $48 billion state budget bolstered by federal aid. The spending plan approved Friday includes enough money to fully pay for the state's share of public K-12 busing costs, as well as a program to increase teacher pay to at least $38,000 a year. The budget also pays for expanded access to the Medicaid health care program and a 5.5% funding increase for four-year colleges. The $48 billion budget is the largest in Missouri history. The publisher for ComoBuzz.com says the upcoming special election for Columbia's 3rd Ward council seat will be a key story. Mike Murphy says Northeast Columbia's 3rd Ward has contrasts.
You know, that area has some very, very nice residential developments, and it also has our worst part of town a couple blocks away. Yeah. It's where most of our violent crime takes place.
Incumbents Carl Scala and challenger Roy Lovelady tied in April with 1,102 votes. The special election is on August 2nd. You can hear the CEO Roundtable with Murphy at 939theeagle.com. Most state and county offices are closed today to observe Truman Day for the nation's 33rd president. Former President Harry Truman was born in 1884 in southwest Missouri's Lamar and later moved to independence. President Truman issued the executive order that integrated the U.S. military and started the Truman Doctrine. He was inducted into the Hall of Fame of Missourians at the State House in Jefferson City in 1991. His bronze bust is still on display there. 93.9 The Eagle News with Hemi Construction, with homes and lots in the southwest neighborhoods of Chapel Hill Meadows, Nursery Heights, Creek's Edge, and Timberbrook. It's 8:34. The Cardinals were edged out by the Giants yesterday, 4-3 on the road, splitting a 4-game series. Juan Yepez hit his first career home run for St. Louis in the loss. The Cards are off today and will start a 3-game set with the Orioles at home tomorrow. After 2 straight rainouts Friday and Saturday, the Royals split a doubleheader with the Orioles yesterday, winning the first game 6-4, then losing 4-2 in the second game. Kansas City will finish out their series with Baltimore today at 11:05. Carlos Hernandez will start for the Royals. The Blues evened up their first-round playoff series with the Wild after a 5-2 victory in Game 4 yesterday in St. Louis. Jordan Kyrou and David Perron both had 2 goals apiece, and Jordan Binnington made 28 saves in nets. The series is tied at 2-2. Game 5 is tomorrow night at 8:30 in Minnesota. Mizzou baseball was swept on the road at Ole Miss over the weekend, losing yesterday 10-2. They will host Florida for their final conference home series starting Friday. Mizzou softball dropped 2 out of 3 games at Alabama to finish the regular season. They will be the 7th seed in this week's SEC tournament in Gainesville, Florida. Their first game is against the 10 seed Auburn on Wednesday afternoon. Sports with Service Master Clean of Columbia. If you have fire, water, or mold damage, tell your insurance agent you want the master of disaster with the big yellow van, Adam Kinzer with Service Master of Columbia.com. It's 8:35. With MidbowHires.com, local companies looking for local people. Visit MidbowHires.com to find a job or post your job opening today. Not looking at any wrecks right now on the roads. Looks pretty clear on 70 and 63 and surrounding areas too. So good job so far, folks. Let us know if you see any traffic, though, at 874-9390 with a call or a text, 573-874-9390. More team coverage in less than 30 minutes. Breaking news immediately. I'm Andy Humphrey, 93.9 The Eagle.
The radio station, 93.9 The Eagle. The show, Wake Up Columbia, with Branden Rathert, Stephanie Bell, Brian Hauswirth, and Hannah the producer, giving you news, analysis, and opinion.
And this is revealing a big secret, so don't tell anybody. We Democrats have a lab, 2 labs actually, secret labs, one in Berkeley and one in Brooklyn, where we come up with ideas to completely piss off the working class, and it's working wonderfully.
Paul Begala, who is the Democratic strategist, Friday night Bill Maher show, saying, I don't understand. He says, when I am strategizing with fellow Democrats, he says, I am surely not strategizing to them that they do things that would hurt us financially, like, pay and forgive student loan debt and these things that have created these high gas prices. And so he was being facetious when he says we just have these secret labs that we come up with ideas to upset our base. Thought it was pretty interesting. Welcome into the show. That is Cousin. You ever heard of Cousin Andy? Like on, what was it? I'm sure he's been on some TV show, some black and white TV show from the 50s or 60s. And just about every show had a Cousin Andy. The Andy Griffith Show. Andy Griffith was a cousin to somebody.
You're really trying to make this work. You really are.
Stretch.
Don't pull a muscle there trying to stretch.
Andy Humphrey is in for Brian Hauswirth. He's going to be back here on Monday. And fortunately, really, so we've got the things that we want to make sure you know what's going on. Final week of legislative session in Jefferson City. Things still in Ukraine. Locally, really, today it's going to be warm, which might catch some people off guard.
Yeah, a little bit. It caught me off guard a little bit today. I realized I didn't need the jacket. So might touch 90 today and then mid-90s later this week. Kind of crazy.
All right. Well, it's always good to see you here. There is Hannah, the producer. How was your weekend?
It was good. I got to spend some time with my family.
Very nice. You go see your mama?
I did.
I went to see my dad for Mother's Day. Stepbrother. I think my mom blocked me again on text because I sent her a text. Happy Mother's Day, Mom. No response. So either she's blocked me or she doesn't care. Steph, how was your weekend? How was your Mother's Day weekend?
Really good. Friday night, I went to the True North event, a little black dress event, huge community event, big turnout. They hadn't done it since before COVID. So, shout out to everyone who works with that organization. An amazing speaker, a lot of smiles in the room. And I'm hoping they raised a lot of money for their cause.
Man, and these speakers come in and they tell their stories. And I'm not kidding. You're like, that really happens.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But what else really happens is they're able, through one way or another, through organizations like True North and through the kindness just of individuals. It's not always True North, despite the incredible work that they do, but then individuals. You hear these stories of abuse and how they're able to come out of it and then where they are today. But they had somebody, helping them along the way.
Yeah, so good. You hear, generally about the community coming together, but to see all of those women in the same room, smiling and there to support other women in the community, I think was really moving. And then, spent a lot of time with family the rest of the weekend. Got a hamster on Saturday, enjoyed the weather. My kids got in the pool, in my in-laws' pool yesterday. And I remember being that kid before Memorial Day thinking, it's warm enough. It was really chilly yesterday.
62 degrees. I'm good, Mom. I'm good.
It was fun.
Then you come out of the pool shivering and your lips are purple. And Andy, by the way, Andy here, I love this wedding invite that I did get from Andy Humphrey.
Please don't put your
Careful.
address and all the info all over the interwebs. Thank you.
I've done that more than once. I ain't real smart
Careful
sometimes. But here's what I did love. So, we're buds. I don't like going to weddings. I will go to yours as long as.
Wow.
Well, I don't.
You're such a Scrooge when it comes to love.
Don't mean to make you pull teeth to
support a friend.
Yeah.
No, I appreciate the love and appreciate the friendship, and your soon-to-be wife, lovely creature, by the way, and you two. I mean, you are a top-notch guy. She couldn't do much better. But I cringe whenever I get wedding invites because I'm like, I just don't like weddings, and it's me. It's because I don't do well around crowds. Don't like hanging out with a bunch of people that I don't know, and I don't hear. My biggest thing is when I'm in crowds, I can't. Why are you laughing? It's true. I can't hear people.
Because I know you can't, and it's bad.
It's when I go to crowds, when I go to events, I spend most of my night, and Stephanie knows, we've been to things together. I spend most of my time, yeah, oh, yeah, which is good. I've been married twice, so I have practice at pretending like I'm paying attention at these events.
Not a lot of practice, but some practice.
But because I can't
But
hear.
you're going to a wedding. What do you need to do? You need to give Andy a high five. You need to eat a piece of cake and then get on the dance floor. Who are you listening to?
Dude, I'm so white. I don't dance.
I love a wedding. I love weddings.
But this just really struck me on the back of the invite that I got from Andy. It says, "You're invited."
Sweet.
Yeah.
Like I've won something. Like it's good news. Like, guess what, Brandon? You made the cut. You're one of the people that we invited. And from somebody who does not like to go to weddings, it's not my taste. Can I send somebody via proxy?
No.
Do whatever you want.
Brandon, what you really need to worry about is who your +1 is going to be.
Ooh.
I don't think I'm the one that needs to worry about that as much as there's about 4 or 5 women right now that need to worry about.
I didn't even know who. So I didn't even know who it was. So what I put on there was Mr. Branden Rathert and guest. Did you see that?
Andy knew that you had options.
And I'm exaggerating. I'm not like that. It's not like, but I did, Branden Rathert and guest. So if I do bring somebody, I'll say
you should probably let me know who it is, just so we can replace guest on the.
Andy, lovely wedding. I'd like you to meet my guest.
My dad.
We'll have name tags on the name wherever you're sitting, and it'll say guest.
By the way, names on shirts came up, I kid you not, Saturday, MKT Trail, 10 o'clock in the morning. The whole thing with the letters on front of the shirt came up on the trail. Big topic Friday on the show. We were talking about it, some guys, when women have shirts and has lettering on the front of shirts. It's not a bad thing. It's just a thing for some guys, and based on the text we got, some dudes get uncomfortable when there's lettering on the front of women's shirts. Because, you're trying to be a guy and the eyes are up here and it turned into a thing. Somebody on the trail approached me while we were talking about dogs, incidentally. Because this woman had a dog and it was part Pomeranian and part Great Dane. And everybody was, oh, a cute dog. What's the name? Nobody's paying attention to this lovely young woman who's walking the dog. And anyhow, so we get to talking about, I said, do people come up and say hi to you? She said, no. I said, do they come up and talk to the dog? Oh, yeah. And she just sits there holding the dog, and nobody's talking to her. So we got to talk. Another woman walks by, and she says, hey, aren't you Wake Up Columbia? And I said, well, I'm a part of it. And she said, love the conversation Friday. So then this gal with the dog says, oh, are you on the radio? What's the thing? So it's a woman, and I just met her, and I'm trying to tactfully
explain what you were talking about on Friday?
Yeah. It was a weird situation.
My husband informed me because he's big with rugby, and we were talking about back, years ago how they used to write stuff on the butt of pants. Victoria's Secret was notorious for that. Anyway, apparently there's a rugby team, and they're sponsored by Dude Wipes, which you can. It's kind of self-explanatory, but their rugby shorts, when they play their games, Dude Wipes is across the butt of their shorts, which I found to be entertaining, at least. Good advertising, I guess.
All right, coming up, we're going to be, by the way, anybody been magnet fishing before? Listener Paul texted us some really cool pictures. I've heard of this, But this guy has pulled up like a hydraulic jack, a barbecue grate, a knife, drill bits, and some tools. And I've never seen him, but I've asked him what's his biggest find. He says he finds guns quite often by magnet fishing. You go out, you drop a magnet off the side of your boat and pull up whatever metal comes up. I thought that was pretty cool. Coming up, we are going to be chatting with Ken Scouby. He is, it's Mental Health Awareness Month, Mental Health Wellness Month, whatever you want to call it. Ken Scouby's with CentrePointe. We're going to be chatting with him coming up about 5 minutes from now here on 93.9 The Eagle. And did want to mention the passing of Mickey Gilley, the guy who was largely responsible for the movie. Was it Urban Cowboy? John Travolta and Deborah Winger was in the movie, kind of popularized country music a little bit in the 80s. Had a theater in Branson. I don't know if it's still there or not. Had a theater in Branson for a long time. Passing away over the weekend. He was 86.
Hi, it's Glenn Beck. Catch Wake Up Columbia with Branden Rathert. Mornings starting at 5:30 on Hot Talk 93.9 The Eagle.
So it just looks like a loser issue for the party that is trying to win back the working class, that we're going to subsidize. We who didn't go to college and didn't benefit from that are going to subsidize you to get your degree in gender studies and sports marketing and all the other bullshit that they take in account.
Bill Maher over the weekend on his show talking about subsidizing education loans, and these people that go, listen, I would love everybody. You know, it's a great idea, free money. But the idea you're taking tax money from somebody else and you're using it. Somebody went and got a loan. They got a loan and they agreed, I will pay this back. Would I take free money? Heck yeah. You know how much of that, the money during the COVID stuff, you know how much of it I gave back or sent to charity? None. Or several years ago, whenever it was that Obama gave out a bunch of money, and I can't remember what we were coming out of 2008, 2009, and it was some kind of money for jobs to put you into a new job. And I was so situated that I qualified for some of that money to ultimately come here. And I hated to do it. And some of the most conservative people I know said, Branden, have you been paying taxes? And I said, yep. I said, then don't feel bad about taking the money. Here's what I hope with this gasoline tax in Missouri. I hope, because most of the people I talk to, I'm like, hey, are you saving your gas tax receipt where you can get back like that 2.5 cents add-on fuel tax, supposed to go and fix our roads and stuff. And most of the people I talk to, they're not saving it. Not saving it. For me, it's going to come out to about $35 this year. And I haven't even done the work yet. Here, the hardest part of what I've had to do is just get the receipt and put it into an envelope. Because then after that, you got to put your VIN number on every single receipt, which could be done with a stamper, but you got to, and it's just crazy. And here's something else: I don't know, it was a tax attorney, CPA that I was speaking to just last week, actually in Fayette, and she said, you know what? The other thing to keep in mind, make sure if those receipts don't have, if it's a receipt that's not breaking out the tax, that will do you no good. It's not going to do you any good. So something to keep in mind. But we had somebody had an even better idea, I thought, and that idea was, you know what? Just make the effort, save one receipt. Save one receipt. And if we all mailed it to the Department of Revenue, if every single citizen in Missouri just mailed one receipt, and listen, this is not the fault of the Department of Revenue. It's probably above their head. The idea that you can get a rebate on some of your tax money is great. Taxes suck in the first place. It's a vicious circle, really. But if you can get some of that back, that's great. But they're not making it easy. Yeah, sending these receipts, all the info on there. So somebody had the idea, why don't we just, every single person, send in one receipt? Because that would keep the employees, our state employees, whom we love very much, no disrespect to anybody in the Missouri Department of Revenue, but my goodness, it would keep them busy.
Yeah, I mean, I can understand that. So as part of the bill passing, they had to prepare a fiscal note, an estimate, you know, how many people they thought, how much money it would bring in, then how many people they thought would do a refund. So I cannot wait until after we have the data on year number one to not only see what people actually did, but also compare with what they told people they thought people were going to do.
And here's another wild scenario. What if every single person, every single one of us, we've been saving every single receipt since this new 2.5 cent bump went into effect last year. Every single person sent in receipts. And all of that money they collected in taxes had to go right back out.
Not happening.
Not happening. But if, digging way deep down in the what if barrel, what if we did, then they wouldn't have the benefit of the extra 2.5 cents. Coming up tomorrow on the show, Chris Forbes, of course, he's going to be joining us. Missouri politics, things that are going to be affecting us, especially as we cross the finish line. What bill might do like that horse did this weekend, Kentucky Derby. I don't follow horse racing, but I did happen to see the video of this stunning come from behind win. If you've had a chance, watch the aerial view of the race.
So good. Incredible.
Yeah, like it's the first time I've ever been interested in horse racing to watch.
Oh, I love a good horse race.
Fine. But I'm wondering which Bill right now in Jefferson City might be that Kentucky Derby winner and come from nowhere and make it forward. Christopher Arp's going to be here tomorrow, and Congressman Billy Long running for Senate. He's going to be hanging out with us on the show, too. Gary Nolan Show's next. See ya.
Bye.